How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar, and I have a full panel today. Well, sort of a full panel. But before I talk about the full panel, just want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to be doing the DC Event Evergreen. This is the 2025 edition. That means that we have to have a 2026 edition. That means we didn't have a 2024 edition. Regardless,
we've never done DC events before.
No, this is the first time we're doing DC events. So before we go into the rules, I'm going to let my wonderful panelists introduce themselves. This lady to my left, you may know from this channel, but I'm going to let her do her thing. What's up?
Hi, I'm Wonder Maddie. And if you're like, do you have a YouTube channel? Yeah, it's this one. This is where I am. My internet's been real crazy, but if you remember from the before times, I'd be here every Tuesday live during Over Your New Reader. And it looks like it's holding up. So I guess we'll be back. I just need to invite people to be there. So happy to see you. I've been here for like 6, 7, I don't know. It's been so long.
It's been
how long? It's been like 6, 7 years? James will know. Anyways, hi everybody.
James will know. Yes, he will. To my right is my partner in crime with the Evergreens, and that is Crisis with a K.
Hello, Internet. Coming to you live from New Zealand. It is Crisis with a K. You can find me both at crushingcrisis.com and on YouTube at Crushing Crisis, where I'm back to putting some videos on my channel for the first time in 3.5 years. So thanks all of you Minties for keeping the hope alive while I've been summering on the Near Mint Condition channel. That will continue. But I will also be back on my own channel and once a month with the adorable OmniDog, of course.
Awesome. Put that mask back on. It ain't your turn yet. Next up is Illuminerdy. What's up? How you doing, man?
Muted.
Oh, we should have done a sound check on Illuminerdy before we got started. Let's try that again. How you doing? Okay, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to Illuminerdy. All right. Let's go to,
we were talking to him before, right? Like we haven't just been ignoring him all this time.
It was telepathically.
We've probably been ignoring him. I mean, let's face it. That's pretty on brand for us.
Banana. Yeah. All right. OmniDog. We'll come back to Tyler.
Shut up.
I am
Stop gargling your spit and
adorable OmniDog from OmniDog's Vault on YouTube and Blue Sky and Instagram, and I am very pleased to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. Apparently, this is your channel, according to John. Not an Iron Man fan. You're on Blue Sky. Are you?
Yeah,
on
man.
We're all on Blue Sky. Omar?
I just posted something today about my daughter. It was great.
Or lemon? What's the other one? Lemonade? I don't know. Whatever the hell Tina's thinking.
Lemonade? Do you mean? Are you guys gonna have a Xiao Hong shoe now? The TikTok's coming away?
Don't know what she's doing. I feel like somebody in China has all my social security number information because we're creating different accounts across the board to take up for TikTok. And from, well, Chris, where are you from, Chris?
All around and everywhere. So yeah, I'm Chris Balga. I'm a member of the Geek Ultimate Alliance, but you can catch all our YouTube live stuff on the Geekverse Podcast YouTube channel. I co-host a show over there called Marvel Alliance, which when we're done with this show at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, you can catch us live going over everything in the world of Marvel Comics, MCU. We do it all Marvel over there. So
this was so weird. I thought that was me typing. And
sorry. All right, if you guys see anything in there, it's probably just me. I'll try.
Okay. And Sean from the Comic Pals, what is up?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Sean from the Comics Pals, and I am so honored to be back on this channel. My second go-round for the Evergreen list, this time talking DC. Thank you to everybody for having me. Thank you to these panelists. It's going to be a lot of fun. And before we get started, I do want to say the Comics Pals, we are live Thursdays and Saturdays. We talk everything comics, news, reviews, all that good stuff. Come hang out with us.
Comic Pals are a good group of guys. I hung out with them in New York. Well,
yes.
1, 2, 3. 3 of you guys.
3 out of 4.
One of you guys is in England, right?
Yes, he's outside of the U.S. We don't count that. He's away.
He's the red coat. And last but certainly not least,
probably least.
Power a banana within 10 seconds.
Yes.
Lars
Pearson, publisher, editor-in-chief of I'm sorry, it's been a long day. Publisher and editor-in-chief of Mad Norwegian Press, formerly of Wizard Magazine. And I just want to start with a bit of pathos here, at the risk of bringing down the mood. That recently in town, one of our Uber geeks, a good friend of mine, did pass away recently. Now, this individual, he was my friend Steve. He was renowned, among other things, because he had a Spider-Man bathroom. Okay, and everyone would ask him, "Well, if you get a girlfriend, you know, what if she moves in? What if she?" He's like, "Well, she's going to have to tolerate my Spider-Man bathroom, you know, regardless." So first of all, I'm hoping that at the visitation, there is a Spider-Man bathroom so I can relieve myself in it while thinking of him. And secondly, I think this is a good reminder to all of us. Always be true to yourself. Be true to yourself, even if that means having a Spider-Man bathroom.
Especially if that means having a
Especially if it means having a Spider-Man bathroom.
So Lars can relieve himself at your funeral.
But while thinking of you.
My takeaway.
And,
Yeah.
you can take your own definition of relieving him.
Well, he also had a DVD room, and you know, I'm wondering if we should have like a Viking funeral boat and just fill it with him and the DVDs, and then fire flaming arrows into it.
That's
You're
interesting.
getting rid of physical media, you monster. What's wrong with you, man? Let me see if Illuminerdy, can we hear you now? Still no sound. Still no sound from Illuminerdy. So let's see. I'm gonna message him. Peter, take it away for a second.
Okay, so everybody knows that we've been doing these evergreen debates for over a past year, and this has been one that somehow we have left by the wayside. So we're going to be talking about DC's evergreen events. And what does that mean? So for evergreen, it means a book that is continually in print. Now, DC does have a couple of these, like Watchmen, right? Watchmen is always in print in some format. Are any of their events always in print in some format? A few of them come close, but that's what we're going to be debating today. But one interesting little tickler about that is DC actually has not comprehensively reprinted some of its big events. So everybody today did not have to pick necessarily an existing omnibus or trade paperback. They could pick an event that has not been effectively collected before and make the case that it ought to be collected and ought to be evergreen. At least one of the people on the show has done that today. So we're each going to give you our pitches for why we think our 3 picks ought to be evergreen. That's round 1. Round 2, we go around and tear each other down or give each other loving support, depending on how we're feeling about each of the pitches. And then round 3 is just a yes, no, no maybes vote on what we think ought to be on the final list.
Well, Peter, you tear people down, but you give excellent aftercare, if I may say.
Yeah, well, you know, aftercare is important,
It
right?
is very important.
Consent before,
Yes.
aftercare following.
Absolutely.
I missed you guys.
Oh my, do we have sound from Illuminerdy?
He is looking intensely at his. I want to see that man snap and punch that screen so hard.
It looks like
Push that like button.
it looks like he's defusing a bomb in a submarine and is
There's
wondering
not
what
a cat
wired
in
it.
that room. That cat will be getting yelled at.
It's okay. When it gets to his turn, he can just pretend to talk, and then we just say what we think he's saying.
He's gonna
It's fine.
restart
Bad
it.
lip
Like
reading, I
live
like it.
lip sync.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's
exactly.
gonna restart it like a trooper. Okay, Peter, am I ready to share some slides?
You are. Sorry, I mean, we'll just work around some of our departed friends if they are not here for it.
Okay. Let me just share the window, not the entire screen, because that was embarrassing the last time. All right, here we
Dom's
go.
supposed to be here?
Is who? Lars?
Dom?
Dom's supposed to be here. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but I've messaged him.
Okay.
And we kind of covered our normal intro slides already through my chat.
Oh, you did this. You did. What is an evergreen? You've already done
Yeah.
this, right? And
But
you've gone through the
here,
list. This is
for
important.
we're not going to read every one, but for those of you asking, all of these many events and even more were totally on the table. This is the list that our panelists received. So keep that in mind when you see our picks. DC's had many kinds of events, some of them totally self-contained, some of them through annuals, some of them direct crossovers, some of them line-wide, and some people pick things that are not even on this list. But this was the list everybody was given to say, at least you can work from this.
Oh, I should have looked at that.
Ah!
My bad. I
Can I
was like
change
Googling
any of my
everywhere. I
picks?
was like, which events count? I don't know.
Can I change one of my?
No, you're not. It's too late, OmniDog.
Oh, now you're ready
If
to
any
go.
of you choose Heroes in Crisis, it's
That's what
on
I was
site.
gonna ask.
It's
Darn
on
it, that was my
site.
backup.
I was like,
we will
who do
see
we have
what
to
shows
flame?
up. We will see what shows up. Lars,
Try me.
Crisis, Dom and Tyler. Okay, I think we're ready. OmniDog. Oh, OmniDog goes first. Okay, got it.
Okay.
All right, OmniDog, take it away here. Let's see what OmniDog put. Oh, I'm sorry. Each person peaks 3 DC universes. You already went through this, right?
Yeah, I kind of did it. But because so many people did samey, matchy, we're only going to have 8 books on the final list today, not 10.
What?
Sorry about it.
You can't just change that. It's not like we ran out of money.
Well, we'll see. Sometimes Omar doesn't let me change the rules. We'll have to have an additional fight about that at the end.
All right, OmniDog, go on with your bad self. What do you got here?
I didn't choose Flashpoint.
What? Oh, here we go.
Oh,
Here we go.
here we go.
Let me look at the notes.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Speaking of that, is Illuminerdy back?
I'm pretty sure I picked.
Sean, does this ever happen on your show on the Comic Pals where you're running a slideshow? And
You know what? No,
no, you guys didn't have any technical difficulties.
not quite like this, but
Oh,
we
you
also
did.
don't
No,
have.
that's true. That's true. You didn't pick Flashpoint, my friend.
I
Well,
mean,
now who am I gonna blame?
peace and love to Flashpoint, but I didn't. I mean, I did like one of the stories in.
Well,
Flashpoint.
why don't you talk about the other 2, and I will correct it by the time you make it to the third one.
I forget what the third one was.
Jeez.
Well, me too, clearly.
52, and you had Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay,
okay.
I will add it to the stage again. There you go, OmniDog. Take it away.
Okay.
Take it away.
Well,
Do a
Christ-
super chat real quick. Bloodlines
Oh,
on
thank
West
you.
Rico. Sean, do it from you.
No, simply no. I will not be doing that.
Do it. What? Do what? What does he want to do?
Choose
He wants me
Bloodline.
to argue for bloodlines.
Bloodline's never been really truly collected, right? Not in trades, not in omnibus. We've got some Bloodline, like Superman and Hitman, because that was in the Demon Bloodline. But sorry, I was going on a whole thing. OmniDog, did you figure out what you did wrong?
No, I didn't do anything wrong. I'll start with Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is the one that started it all back in the mid '80s. There tons of tie-ins. They were trying to pull all the various Earth. We were up to like Earth X, Earth Z, Earth 123, and they were trying to make a cohesive universe out of it all. There were definite consequences in this, and at the time I was shocked. Barry Allen, spoiler alert, Barry Allen dies, spoiler alert, Supergirl dies. And it took a long time for Barry Allen to come back. They brought Supergirl back relatively recently, but this is the first one, and it still holds a lot of interest for me because this is the first event. I think in comic book crossover in comic books, I think this is the very first big long crossover tie-in event.
All right, OmniDog, hold on to your butt. Hold on a second. I gotta add Illuminerdy back in here. How we doing, Illuminerdy? You got that sound going?
Yes, I am so sorry.
Okay.
Nice. There we go.
There you go.
You give the thumbs up, and I was like, no, I need you to talk.
Yeah,
All right.
I just needed to reload everything. I apologize.
No, you're good, man. You're good. We all make mistakes, right, Jess?
Yeah, there we go.
All right. All right. So Crisis on Infinite Earths. And thank you, John. Remember, the important thing in this, whatever the complication or problem, it is all without exception Omar's fault. I had nothing to do with Illuminarities. I don't know where Dom is. I think he's asleep. I'm gonna call him on the air here when it's my turn if he's not here by then. But thank you for the super chat, my friend. All right, Jess, what's your second pick? Give me a 30-second pick.
Infinite Crisis. I enjoyed this mostly because it created a kind of crisis of confidence and crisis of conscience within the big three there. So there were real there were real consequences in this event too. It went on probably just long enough, and it had a genuinely hateable character in Superboy Prime. I've always hated him, and I hated him the most in this. But this was a book that was out of print for a long time, and I'm glad that they've at least reprinted it. But I think it needs to be evergreen because we also get it leads into 52, my third choice, which is a world without the big three, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, because they are questioning their place in the DC universe. They decide to take the year off, and which leads into 52. And 52, I thought at the time that I was collecting it, I thought it was a cool idea, and it focused on all the other characters in the DC universe. And we get the Question. Renee Montoya gets to become the Question. Spoiler alert, but that's where she becomes the Question. And these are good stories. It's kind of a group effort, but I thought the four writers meshed together well to make it an interesting read with without the big three there. It showed how the other characters can be important, and it showed how the other characters in the DC universe don't just prop up the wall for the big three. They are a foundation of it too. Okay.
Next on the list is Wonder Maddie. Take it away, girl.
It's me. This was tough because there's so many events, and I had to, like, one, realize which ones I really like and that really stood with me, and two, what would I not be bullied for? So this is pretty tough. So one that was like my backup pick, I'm actually glad it got added, was Death of the Family, because even though this isn't like a huge like overarching event, it did cross over several different comic books in New 52. And this is definitely one of my favorite like crossover event of the New 52, because I loved going through, like, as I was like getting into comic books and reading through like Catwoman and then Batman and then all the other ones, getting to see how everybody arrived at that moment. Because it was very creepy, but also very personal. And that was a very emotional moment, weirdly, for the Bat family. It's one that I love going back to over and over again. Second, DC Rebirth. I wasn't sure how this was gonna. This was a choice that was for me, and I wasn't sure if everybody else would like choose Rebirth or not, or like say it was a bad pick. But Rebirth is one of my favorite all-time like events, or just like a shift in storyline. Rebirth is what got me into comic books. To me, Rebirth is like a return to form of like the hopefulness, and also just some really interesting storylines, especially with Superman coming back with Lois, and as well as Wally West, and like the mystery of that was so cool as it was building up and kind of where all these memories were, and of course brought back my favorite Titan group. So I owe a lot to my comic journey of Rebirth, but it's also just one of my favorite fun, hopeful stories to go back to. And then, of course, Infinite Crisis. I mean, there's not much more to say about it. I think it's just that Jess didn't say. One of my favorite Wonder Woman stories is in here when she actually kills. And, like, what does that mean for everybody else's moral compass? And what does this mean for her? Because she was raised differently in a different society. Just getting to explore just the distrust everyone had with one another, and how does that affect not only them, but just the wider, like, DC group.
Okay, thank you, Wonder Maddie. Lars, take it away, you crazy mad Norwegian bastard.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I felt a little boxed in by this one because, you know, looking over the possibilities and the rules of what you could pick, I mean, there are a lot of DC events that I don't think it's so much that they're terrible as just they're not all that great. And when I was looking for, you know, what's the sort of thing you would die on a hill over? What's the sort of thing that charges your nipples with static electricity? I mean, there wasn't a lot of choices I would really fight for. But Crisis on Infinite Earths, I can genuinely defend. And I think it's I think it is split between if you were there at the time or if you're coming to it after the fact. I have known people who did come to it after the fact. I have known people who read it about 20 years after the fact or something. I was like, oh, that's really strong. The plotting's amazing. It had death. It had meaning. It had characterization. It had all these great stuff. I do think Crisis is genuinely great. It's Wolfman and Perez at the peak of their powers. As long as you're not too troubled by you're not going to know who every character is. You don't need to know who every character is. If that stops bothering you, I think you'll enjoy yourself.
Okay.
It's a landmark for a reason. Blackest Night, and to be honest, I struggle sometimes with Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, but Blackest Night, I can say genuinely is a very enjoyable ride. It feels like there's genuine threat. It keeps rolling along. It creates a lot of stories for the heroes that are intensely personal. I mean, if you're into the spin-offs like the Starman issue, the Question issue, so on. Now, this had a ton of tie-ins, many of which are worthless, but these ones are, some of them are really great. 52 is just a masterclass in characterization. I mean, taking these characters, it is indispensable where the Question is concerned. It gives you a deeper appreciation of Booster Gold, of Will Magnus, of Elongated Man. Well, I loved Elongated Man anyway. I mean, you can't stop reading it. It keeps turning, and the gears are amazing. The art is fantastic. The covers are fantastic. So, yeah, great stuff. And I'm disappointed that my backup pick is not here because I thought I was quite clever there. That's okay.
Apparently not to Crisis. You are not clever, my friend.
Well, I know that, certainly.
Thank you, Atomic Hound. It's not a classically collected event, but can the new Krypton saga please get some love? I actually have some custom omnis of that because I love that era. All right, everybody. Dom of X is here. We can chill out now.
Welcome.
I thought this was at 4:30, man. No one told me it was like an hour earlier. I was literally in the middle of recording, and Omar was like, hey, and I didn't get the notification up until like 5 minutes, and I was like, wait, you guys are streaming? What the heck's going on?
Time zones are hard, my friend.
Young man.
Whose fault is it?
Omar's.
It's Omar's fault.
Strike for Omar. Maddie, can you add a strike to Omar's account, please?
You got it. Let me pull out the blackboard.
I've got a lot of strikes on that thing. All right. Welcome to the party then. Lars, are you done talking?
For now.
Okay. I'll take it. Chris Balga.
Oh, no, wait. I was good. My backup pick was
bless Lars.
I know. I thought my backup pick was Uncanny X-Men and New Teen Titans. I thought that one should have counted, and I thought that would have been great as a deluxe edition. But yeah.
But it's in the omnibus. It's in the DC versus Marvel.
It is in the omnibus, although I think the quality of the omnibus vacillates wildly. I would love to have just that story as a deluxe edition.
Okay. Chris Balga, take it away, my friend. What do you got here?
All right, so I've got our Worlds at War. This is what I call kind of the summer blockbuster of the DC events, because where you get this new kind of villain on the scene in Parax trying to, sensing something wrong in the DC universe, because when is there not something wrong in the DC universe? And decides that he is going to destroy it and reshape it better. So what better way to do that than to head to Earth? But he's gathering all this energy, trying to, take out Earth, seemingly destroying possibly Warworld and other things. But it leads to, when Earth is at stake, the universe is at stake. The heroes of Earth have to team up with none other than their biggest villain of all time, Darkseid. So what happens with that? Lots of deaths involved, some big character deaths, some great action sequences. So I call this a great popcorn summer blockbuster comic for DC. So I do enjoy that. Flashpoint, a reshaping of the DC.
This is your actual choice, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know some people in the panel were like, no, not mine. By the way, our Worlds at War.
Yes.
I love that too, man. I love that that's where DC, that was DC's way of like, hey, we're actually going to head to that Kingdom Come kind of future that we've, we did back in the 90s with the changing of Superman's like shield because of the deaths of so many heroes, even some of them like dying off panel.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to come back and talk about that. Good for you.
So Flashpoint, you know, who would have thought the?
I said cheating. I was complimenting him, you jerk. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, you're good.
People are just rude.
You know, the idea of the butterfly effect of what happens can change an entire universe is put into a very short event, but had the ramifications of creating and reshaping the entire DC line. Looking at the idea of all of it revolving around Barry and the idea of what if his mom survived, and more so that Barry doesn't necessarily is unhappy about that. It's more of the sense like he can't accept this reality, and seeing all how that reality has shaped around him, who heroes are, who heroes aren't, and the surprises that come from the masks they wear and who is actually there and the wars that are started. It's one of those ones that they cram so much into the actual event itself, but the event is only a couple of issues. It's the world around it that's fascinating. That's why it's I put it next to Infinite Crisis, just because I'm not saying all the tie-ins were just solid, but the tie-ins really built a very interesting world around it. So, and then what it led to, setting up the New 52. Blackest Night, my final choice. The conclusion of Jeff Johns' kind of big Green Lantern event series that he started with Rebirth. The idea of even bringing in this character Necron that most of us had not seen, and goodness gracious, how long at that point, but building the idea of him literally building an army of the dead, of these dead heroes, dead villains, and what it would lead to in some of the return of these heroes back that we never thought we'd ever get back. Very interesting event, obviously very creepy event at that point, but I was very skeptical. Could Jeff Johns stick the landing with what he was building towards? And I truly think he was able to do that. Don't talk to me about Brightest Day, though. That's a whole different conversation.
It was also, wasn't it also the introduction of the emotional spectrum lanterns? Blackest Night?
No, that was at the end of Sinestro Corps War at issue 25 of Green
Yeah.
Lantern.
Okay, but Dom's here. I should have just asked him. Thanks.
I was actually half questioning myself. I said, I don't think so.
It all leads together for me. Okay, good. Yeah. Thanks.
That's okay, Jess. All right. Next up. Crushing Crisis. Look at these old pictures. What do we got here, buddy?
Well, you know, I think I'm a little bit different than the rest of you, not only because of my amazing hair, but also because I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for 2000s DC, the aughts of DC, because I read it so much later. And when I read it, it was during New 52. So I was like, well, none of this matters anymore. So I don't have, I'm so interested to hear all of you talk because I have zero emotional connection to any of those 2000s events that everybody's been talking about. For me, I have emotional connections and also really like the events from the 80s and 90s. And the first one on my list is Legends. Now, a lot of people have never read Legends, or they're about to read Legends because it is in the John Ostrander's Suicide Squad omnibus. But it's really interesting because it really works as the first event ever. It's the first one really that totally uses the post-Crisis on Infinite Earth status quo. So it's a fun event because we get to see heroes meeting each other. We see Shazam meet the heroes. We see them meet Wonder Woman. You can't really replicate that too many times because there's only been two big full resets in DC Universe, one after Crisis, one after Flashpoint. And Flashpoint never really did a everybody gets together event. So I think that Legends remains like really, really readable. It has amazing all-stars art on it from the 80s. It gives birth to the Suicide Squad, which is a property a lot of people know and understand now. So it has a lot of Amanda Waller in it as well. I think it's just very pick-upable. It's not a crisis. It's not super, super dense. It's easily readable, easily loved. And it has so many characters in their most toyetic forms because it's right in that DC Super Friends Kenner kind of area of where every character matched their toy. So they're very, very recognizable. My second one is War of the Gods. And to me, it's like, look, if you've got a George Perez event and it's got Wonder Woman and it has all of the pantheons of the gods fighting against each other, you better freaking put that on your list. I think that this is so fun to read. And I think I just love that they did an omnibus about it that had every tie-in. I remember mapping those tie-ins into reading order and having it just as a stack of comics for so many years, thinking DC will never print this as an omnibus. And they did. And I think, again, I think a lot of people on the stream are going to pick crisis events that are very hard to parse and that are evergreen specifically for people who are big DC Comics fans. This is just a bunch of pantheons of the gods having a fight. It's not hard to understand that. Even though it's basically the finale of George Perez's Wonder Woman run, it's really easy to just pick it up and appreciate it. And it's another one of these that every book gets one chance to be involved. So you take a tour of the DC universe. I love that kind of event. My final one is a very hard to parse crisis that's only for major DC fans, and that is 0 Hour. And I truly, unironically, and fully love this story. Why? Because this is not a crisis about multiple Earths, which is hard to track as a reader if you're not a total expert in DC. This is a crisis about how things already don't make sense in the existing timeline. And the whole conceit of 0 Hour is we get to see a character who's ostensibly the villain, but you might actually like them because they're basically erasing things on the page to make the timeline make sense. And it's squashing the timeline both from the future and from the past to make a coherent story. So it is very much a story about stories, the kind of thing that we love, that Grant Morrison loves, but this is the 90s version. And I have to say, the colors in this are just so rainbow colored and beautiful. I loved it in the original issues. It looks beautiful in digital. And this omnibus has terrific mapping, and now it's coming out as a DC finest. So I'm really excited for everybody to read it. And I think it is a DC event that should always be available because it's their best timey-wimey event.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you, Nick. New Teen Titans Forever. It's DC. Can't say New Warriors. So close, though. So close, Nick. And that's right, New Warriors Forever. Are you okay, Crisis? Oh, I thought you went black and had to...
No.
Yeah,
Who's mourning my picks right now?
Chris. Okay.
He's taking an extra breath because he violated his own rules of going on.
What did I violate?
Pick.
Dom of X. Look at Dom of X picking the 3 choices from before. Go ahead. What do you got, buddy?
I feel like, okay, so I have no idea what you guys were talking about because, again, I thought we had the stream set for 20 minutes after right now, but, you know, it is what it is. I have no idea what we're talking about with these specific books, but let me go ahead and see if I can make my case for all of them. I think everybody has already talked about how important Crisis on Infinite Earths is. You have the major death of two characters' deaths who are still very important, not only in the scale of DC Comics history. You're talking about the entirety of comics, that we have seen characters rise and fall, specifically on the case of we are still reeling from the effect that those 2 deaths have had in this one specific comic book. Don't have to worry about all the times, just read from 1 to 12. And of course, you have George Perez, who is going all out with this, saying, let me draw as many cool spread pages as I can to the detriment of his hands. But God bless him for doing that, and all of his contributions that we have made on, or he has made on the industry. And we wouldn't have literally most of every single event that we wouldn't have if it weren't for this specific book and everything else that came after. Infinite Crisis speaks to me in a way, and I had this on my tabulated spreadsheet, and it didn't crack in my top 5 for what I would consider evergreen, but this event means so much to me in the sense that not only is it a spiritual crisis sequel to the original Crisis event, but everything that I think we have as far as modern DC goes, with the reintroduction to the multiverse, and also the shenanigans with none other than Superboy Prime, who still remains one of my favorite villains ever in comics. And what Jeff Johns was able to do with him, Lex Luthor from Earth 3, so many other characters, we have to, I think, thank this specific Crisis event for not only reintroducing those elements, but having this as the basis and template for everything cool that DC has set up for the last 20 years. This is where we get reintroduced to all of those elements. And then on top of that, you have Blackest Night, which I mulled over because I'm thinking, man, is this nostalgia for me as a second, third grader reading through these random issues into this event? Is it me thinking, man, these characters are cool. The whole entire world is shrouded in darkness. You got Necron, you got so many other characters that are thrown in here. Or is this actually something that's still held up in my mind today? I really do think it is the culmination of everything that Jeff Johns set with the DC universe, but also his Green Lantern run and everything that he had been ramping up with before, and Rebirth, Sinestro Corps War, and all the introductions to the Lancers that we do get in between Sinestro Corps War as well as Blackest Night. It is all laid out in here with terrific and fantastic art too by Evan Reyes on the regular book, along with Doug Mankey, who was on those Green Lantern issues. So that's why I ended out with these three, and I do think that we do have three events that not only tell the reader how big these grand scale epics can be, but how important they are to DC history.
Man, well said, Dom. That's really good. Remember compliments when it comes to voting, everybody. All right, moving on to Tyler.
Oh.
Illuminerdy. Remember, I tried to fix your mic. All right, go ahead, buddy.
Should I introduce myself first, or should I just dive right into it?
You're going to be well known after this first pick.
Oh, he must have sound on his videos, Jess.
I want to hear the argument for this.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I just realized what you put as your first.
Yeah.
Never mind. You don't need sound. Go ahead, I'm sorry. That was wrong. I'm sorry about that. I'll put my go ahead, man. Take it away, Illuminerdy.
So my first choice is Identity Crisis, which is what is getting a lot of people upset on the panel. So I like Identity Crisis mainly, I'm gonna say it because of nostalgia. This was one of the first like adult style of stories that I read when I was getting into comics and starting to read comics. And I felt like I understood it pretty well for the age I was at the time. But I do think it's a pretty interesting story that plays with the idea of our superheroes, our godlike beings, kind of functioning in a gray area as far as morality goes. And then on top of that, the actual climax, or the story itself focuses on a murder mystery, and the climax itself you really don't see coming, which is usually what people have the biggest issue with, is they feel like it came out of left field. But yeah, Brad Meltzer on writing, and then you have Rags Morales on art, which I think his expressions and emotions when it comes to characters are top notch. When I think of very emotional panels, I mean, the first artist I think of is like Kevin Maguire, but secondary is Rags Morales. You feel a lot of pain and sorrow in some of the scenes that you see. There's like two iconic scenes that I think of immediately. And then second, I do have Infinite Crisis, which to me is the best comic book event. Similar to what Chris said about one of his choices, I think this is like a summer blockbuster event. This has a beautiful beginning, middle, and end, and the climax mixed between. There's tons of friction between the trinity of the DC universe. Every character, big and small, gets some form of focus. It really pads out and builds out the DC universe. And then, of course, you do have Superboy Prime, who is probably my favorite villain ever in all of comics. He's just so dislikable. He's just a horrible person. And I think that's like one of the first times that we really saw a Superman type of character kind of get bloodthirsty and see red and do whatever the hell that character wanted to do, which kind of pays even more respect to the character of Superman, which you do have a lot of that in this. Superman is a very big focus, especially when you get towards the end, and there's deaths throughout this entire event, so you get a lot of ripples throughout the DC universe. And then we have Flashpoint, the event that most people probably just think of as the beginning of the New 52, but I think beneath the surface you have a narration of the sacrifices that heroes have to give up just to be a hero. And then you get a lot of world building on a world that was going to be temporary. They were very aware it was going to be a temporary world, but they just build every single element and character and origin and team throughout this entire Flashpoint universe. And it's really fascinating to dive into. Even though the omnibus is mapped extremely poorly, I think all of those issues and those tie-in issues that build up this world that we're only spending a short period of time in is just absolutely awesome, and some incredible like Elseworld style comic books.
Okay, thank you so much, Illuminerdy. Well put, well put. Sean from the Comic Pals, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, first things first, I do want to say I think everybody listening to this should like the video if you're enjoying this so far.
Oh,
Make
yes,
sure to
that was
smash that like button.
I suck at reminding people about that. Yes, thank
It's
you
all
for that.
good, dude. Absolutely.
man.
All right, so here we go. I'm going to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths first. We're here to discuss evergreen DC events. That means books that are so impactful and important that they should be printed in perpetuity. By that framing, there is no way you can make this list without including the original event, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I wasn't even alive when this came out in 1985, and I only read it for the first time last year for my show. But even before that, I could have told you the broad strokes and even some finer details about this book because of how ubiquitous its themes and moments are. It's been pulled from, to some degree, in every crisis after. It's been adapted multiple times across media. It's a tremendous look and goodbye to the pre-crisis DCU. Yeah, the writing can feel a bit dated at times, and because of just how groundbreaking it was, there are a lot of elements that get used elsewhere, making it feel like old hat, but it's the first, and many would argue, the best event. Not to mention the incredible George Perez art. That absolutely holds up today. As I mentioned at the top, this is an auto-include, and I really hope, I do not have to debate anybody about that.
That sounds like a threat.
It's a promise. It's a promise. So, Forever Evil, I didn't write for, so I will riff. Forever Evil is my favorite DC Comics event. And I know that might surprise people, but I am a big fan of Jeff Johns. I love David Finch. This was a collaboration created in comic book heaven for me. And I really love the framing. The heroes are on the back foot. The villains have taken over. And it's not just the villains that we're familiar with. We get reintroduced to the Crime Syndicate, which is a really, really cool sort of, funhouse mirror look at the Justice League. These villains do not give a shit. And Superman, that version of Superman and Ultraman, I mean, he does kryptonite like cocaine, which is insane. Superwoman is involved in that, and she's incredible. There are so many interesting elements of it, and it does feel like a big bombastic event, but at the center of it is heart, which I think is what Jeff Johns does best. So to me, this book belongs on an evergreen list because it is a look at the New 52 and what that was like. I think this is the standout event from the New 52 era, and I think if you want a snapshot at the New 52, warts and all, I would say, this is the event to read. Finally, Doomsday Clock. Okay, now, before you all pull out the pitchforks, let me explain this. First of all, I absolutely adore this comic. My favorite creative team ever is Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. When these two get together, they produce nothing short of magic every time. Gary's rendering of the Watchmen characters is breathtaking, and while seeing this mashup of DC and Watchmen is slightly jarring at first, Gary's stellar art makes seeing these characters share pages together feel right. Second, the top 3 best-selling DC graphic novels of all time includes Watchmen, one of the greatest comics ever. Although DC stopped short of saying this, Doomsday Clock is essentially a sequel to that classic story. It pulls on what Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons did in Watchmen in a very respectful way, and pits Superman and Dr. Manhattan, a pairing until this point only existed in the imaginations of people who wanted to see them fight. Jeff intelligently avoids the punchy stuff and instead presents a story that asks vital questions about the nature of DC and why heroism must be what we choose over apathy. It's a perfect next step after Watchmen for people who want more of that story, but it's also just a tremendous comic that deserves to be read forever.
Okay, my friend. Well put. Those are some good cases. Those are good cases. This is gonna be tough, Peter. I don't think any of your three are gonna make it, buddy. No. Not yours, Sean. Yours are good. All right. Moving on to, I think, me. Look, here's the deal, guys.
What the?
Look, here's the deal.
God.
Someone
Just
broke
cover
the
your ears.
rules.
Weren't some of those on the list as blatantly you cannot pick these?
I gave
Don't
you
make Jess
I
witness this.
I
This is
gave
not
you
fair.
He's
5
telling
minutes. to
Crisis
talk. Let
he's
me-
moving the goalpost. Look what he just did.
Now it's my turn. Okay.
Nice.
Let him cook. Hey, let him cook.
I know for a
God,
damn
these are
fact
awful.
when I put this panel together that there's no way in hell that Infinite Crisis and Crisis on Infinite Earths and Blackest Night does not make it on the end. Because they need to be. So I was like, okay, those three are definitely in. What's not going to be in? How about the events that probably got a lot of Marvel readers to come over to DC and start reading DC comics? So I'm going to go with Death and Return of Superman, which I know for a fact made a lot of my friends interested in DC comics. And it is an event because there is a crossover with the Justice League in the very same omnibus that I've bought 15 times. Is it my favorite Superman story? Absolutely not. But I know there is a reason why that damn omnibus has been reprinted 5 times. And there's a deluxe edition, there's an absolute edition, there's a trade paperback edition, there's a box set. It's just a huge seller. I'm sorry. Were we supposed to be laughing while everybody else was talking? Did I do that? I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Can I move on now?
Sure.
Now, Batman Nightfall, same thing. They did it the year with Death and Return of Superman. The next year they did it with Batman Nightfall. They broke Batman's back, and it got so many people that weren't reading DC Comics to go and check out DC Comics. And it was great with those Kelly Jones covers and Graham Nolan, Jim Aparo, my favorite Batman artist. And at the time, it was Chuck Dixon and was Alan Grant writing the stories. And then Final Crisis. Because like I said, I knew the other ones would make it. I'm pretty sure Flashpoint will end up making it. It's got some beautiful scenes. But I didn't think anybody would choose Final Crisis. And it took me a long time to really appreciate Final Crisis. I think I've read that goddamn comic book 7 times. And I hated it at first. It was so confusing and boring. But I learned to appreciate it after reading Jack Kirby's Fourth World. And then I reread what is it? This not Secret Seven, the
Seven Soldiers of Victory.
Yeah, by Grant Morrison. And if you read that with Batman, man, you're in for a treat. Because the story, while it's really, the story of Darkseid dying and then becoming this, like he's so powerful that he just becomes the spirit that begins draining like all the other gods through the entire multiverse. But it's really about like depression and overcoming depression and the way that Morrison writes it. I think it's a wonderful story that is overlooked by the other crises, and the other crises are wonderful. I love all of them except maybe 0 Hour, although that has one of my favorite moments in DC Comics. And then, of course, you've got, the death of a couple of characters in here. Beautiful artwork, too, by Jones and Mankey, who step in, and Carlos Pacheco. And also they were multiversing before multiversing was huge. Now it's kind of everywhere. But when the Monitor was collecting all the different Superman from across the different multiverse, I thought that was really cool. But those are my 3 choices. Now I want to go back to talk about the adorable OmniDog's choices.
Can we address the elephant in the room that said we weren't supposed to choose Nightfall and Death and Return of Superman?
I don't think I ever laid that rule down. Did I say that?
We can pull up those chat windows real quick.
You guys can vote for my choices. I'm just like, I don't think those rules ever really went out. They are events. Just saying. All right. We're gonna go back to the rules. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna go back to
rules. There are rules now. Now we're going back to rules. What's going on here?
All right,
Yeah,
we're going back to OmniDog's
those
choices.
rules out.
Jess, my friend, my backup was actually 52 and War of the Gods. So I love your choices. Like I said, I knew Crisis and Infinite Crisis would make it. There's no way that a list like this exists without those two events. So I'm kind of with you. And I know Lars agrees. I know Dom agrees. I don't know how they feel about 52 though.
I did have Blackest Night on my list also, but it didn't make it, I guess, because other people chose it. But what do I do now? Am I supposed to defend these, or
here's where we pick yours apart? Look, I'll go first to get it out of the way.
Please do.
I don't know how any of these cannot make the list. I mean, this is like quintessential. I personally, I know my name is Crisis and I'm named after it. I find Crisis on Infinite Earths very hard to read, but I acknowledge its place in history.
Peter, is it
like, you know what it is?
Words?
It's words, characters in the panel. Look, one way that I am very much a modern reader, and my reading age is even younger than some of the younger folks that weren't even born when this event came out.
Fired, Sean.
Is when a character appears on panel, I need a freaking Chiron with their name in it. If you don't tell me their name, they're invisible to me. So this is too many characters for me. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have to talk a lot. I think the thing that I'll say about 52 specifically is DC editorial so often does so many things wrong. I'll be getting to that with some other picks. 52 is just such a great example of a perfectly coordinated, very intelligent, editorially driven, but then authorially driven as well event. And I'm happy that people looked at it like an event. I was afraid nobody would pick 52 and then I would feel bad. I think it's absolutely one of the most satisfying things to read on this list. And does it have an omnibus?
Yes. I don't believe.
Yeah, it's got two editions. It's got the older one
and
the newer one, which is $175.
Okay, well,
I think I have mine in paperback. But yeah, I agree. Like all these are great picks, and yes, 52 absolutely belongs on there.
Could I add something to what Peter said about Crisis on Infinite Earths? I will agree in the case of not only like I can see it being a little bit verbose for some, and also very hand heavy with how many characters are in it, because literally everybody is in it. I think the pacing of the book is also kind of off. Like a lot of the action, at least for me, like the way that I was engaged was in the latter 1/3 of the book, like issues 9 through 12, 8 through 12. Finally, we get everything out of the way. We get the introductions out of the way. We get the anti-monitor and everything else set. But other than that, I really don't have any objections with Jess's picks. Like these are perfect. That's all I have to say.
It's hard to scrutinize these picks. The only one that I could possibly call out is 52. Just the only reason being that I think there are some heavy hitters, and if we can only choose 8, I don't know if 52 makes it into that final 8.
Are we really only choosing 8, Peter?
Well, there's only 17 unique picks, so if we choose 10, we're not even cutting half of them. Where's the drama in that?
Yeah, where's everybody's Nightfall and Death and Return of Superman, you coward?
In the garbage!
Yeah, after we take those out, there's only 15
according to the rules.
picks.
On the banned list.
Okay. Are we done telling Jess how good of a boy he is?
Well, are we we're just kind of randomly throwing up? Okay. I know I'm in the minority on this. I know.
Here we go.
Yeah, I have problems with Infinite Crisis. I just do.
You have problems with Infinite Crisis?
I do. Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
Problem?
Okay, not the art. I'm going to make clear. Like the art is like from.
No,
memory,
I mean,
like,
what's your problem, Lars? Not with Infinite Crisis.
Well, no, people have been asking that for ages, Omar. The art. The art's stunning. I mean, I'm sure that like the Absolute book is just amazing because it's got
Phil Jimenez is epic.
I know, but Phil Jimenez, George Perez, Jerry Ordway's in there. I think Ivan Reyes
and Jim Lee are all in there.
Is in there. The art is stunning. The art is so I'm no way am I criticizing the art. I think there's a couple of one is that I just feel like too much of it's a retread from Crisis, and I just kind of sit there and go, I could be reading Crisis and Infinite Earths. It's Jeff Johns' love letter to Crisis and Infinite Earths. I'm like, I could just be reading the original. The other thing is, and I know I'm in the minority on this, I do not buy Superboy Prime and Pariah as villains. I just don't. Because Jeff Johns got this phase where like he would suddenly turn characters evil and it made no sense at all. He did this with Maxwell Lord. He did it with Pariah. And like, I don't have a problem with there being a Superboy from an alternate Earth who's a psychopath, but I cannot wrap my head around the idea that it's that fresh-faced kid from Crisis on Infinite Earths, that he's the psychopath. I don't.
but he's been
I do
hanging
not
around
buy
with
it. I do
two
not buy it.
old
I do not buy it.
people.
I do not buy it.
He's been hanging around with 2 old people in the white space for
Well,
years.
so what?
That would drive you crazy.
I know, but I do not buy the transition.
punched
of that character.
my-
I don't think
the
he
hell out of
tried. I don't think he tried to justify it in any regard. I think it was just like, boom, he's a psychopath. And it's like, okay.
No,
And I
no,
think
no, no. The kid snapped when he would see how dark the DC world was getting.
I
Remember,
don't buy
he-
it. I don't buy
Well,
that.
I was just you were asking a question. I was just
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I don't buy what Johns is selling. I just simply don't. But he went through his phase where he did this, and also for me at a certain point, Superboy Prime gets a little boring because he's in the Legion of Legion of Three Worlds
Yes, he is.
crossover, and
Yeah.
it's like he's boring. It's like, how many times can you see him punch his fist through someone's chest? And it's like, okay, he's a psychopath. He's punching
That's so
fist through someone's
cool.
chest. Yeah, to a point. I would have much preferred a different villain in there. So I think Infinite Crisis is too much of a retread. I don't buy the character transitions. Lovely art though.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else negative to say about
Lars, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clearly. You're gonna need more than 3 hours. Yeah.
Let's do the whole stream about that. What's wrong with Lars?
Video had way too much input on Infinite Crisis. It could have been better. I will say, yes, but so did Jeff Johns, because remember, Infinite Crisis was where Didio was going to kill off Nightwing. And then people kind of stepped up and were like, no, we can't kill off Dick Grayson.
Well, Jeff Johns was the one who stepped up with that. He told
Yep.
Didio, I can't kill a character that I have no emotional / writing attachment to, so he killed off Superboy in
Pariah
trade for
didn't even
Nightwing.
make it into Infinite Crisis. I think he got killed.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I did say Pariah. That is my bad. I meant Alexander Luthor. Yeah.
Oh, fake nerd. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fake
Nope,
nerd.
nope, nope. That
Fake
is-
nerds established.
That's my mistake. That's my mistake.
So
Yeah,
that's okay.
Alexander
You
Luthor.
were heated, Lars.
I don't believe that Alexander Luthor, as portrayed in Crisis, is what we see him in Infinite Crisis. I'm like, you haven't
we haven't
explained
known
to me
that
why he's
character
a different character.
Right? We didn't know that character for that long.
I know, but even so, I didn't buy it.
Okay. Lars is apparently a good judge of character. You can tell if you're a
I know,
psychopath or not.
I know.
within
Said no one ever.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wonder Maddie's choices.
Real quick. So some people in the chat were like, do you mean like all of Rebirth? And I was like, no, just like I'm saying about Rebirth is like an event. I mean like the road to Rebirth and like the initial Rebirth like setup as the event.
I would be okay with Rebirth as an.
Oh, so you mean even like Titan's Hunt?
Yeah. Because to
Oh,
me, that's
interesting.
part of it. To me, like the joy of it is like to me, that's all interconnected personally. But I mean,
Honestly, I was thinking about it the wrong way, and I think that this is it's interesting that I said to everybody, you can pick things that have not been effectively collected before and pitch for them. I really think that could be an omnibus. Like all of the things at the very end of New 52 that precipitate what's going to happen in Rebirth, like that end of Superman arc where we realize there are 2 different Supermans, when they're like, wait a second, we forgot Wally. Like all of that stuff. And at the time that we didn't know Rebirth was going to happen, we're like, wow, is DC like acknowledging some old continuity again? And then the Rebirth special was so satisfying if you had been reading that stuff. I think the interesting thing is so many people just came back to the Rebirth special that they didn't realize. They thought it was the start of something and got disappointed when not all those things went anywhere, but really it was the end cap to something. So yeah, Maddie, from that perspective, I think that's a great read.
I'm actually good with Rebirth. I love the return of Wally West. That was my Flash growing up. It was a sign of hope. I think it's a fun read. It's a little confusing, I think, coming into it. Not as confusing as something like Final Crisis, but it's a little confusing coming into it and seeing all these different flashes and what that button could mean and what's going on with Superman. And we had just gotten rid of the New 52 Superman. But I dig that story, and it's got beautiful artwork. I will say,
I don't think it's any less confusing than some of the other crises where they're like, here's 5 million characters. we don't have time to give you characterization.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Get on board.
That is
I will
is
say this time did take time with it. Not to, like, if this doesn't get it, it's fine. But like,
Okay, so Maddie, are you proposing a new mapping here? You're not proposing what's in the omnibus.
well, to me, I'm not proposing the omnibus. To me, the event itself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Includes that person.
Okay.
So that's,
Yeah.
But I am not. I'm not down with the death of the family, though.
That's fair. That's
no, Maddie. You got to stand your ground. You got to stand up your ground. You can't just give up like that. I don't
it's
think
just one of my favorite events.
It was fine. I don't think it really went anywhere, but it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was long. It's beautifully drawn. But I think if we're only picking 8, then we gotta start getting a little pickier. So yeah, that one's the pass for me. But the other 2, yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, Rebirth can come and go, but I'm okay with it now, unless one of my choices is up on the.
All of yours.
You know what? I'm gonna defend Maddie on Death of the Family because I do think it is Scott Snyder's best story in his Batman run, and I do think that the entire Oh yeah, it's very well contained. You don't need to worry about the stupid Owl Man plot twist. The end of the second art of Court of Owls.
The Owl Man. That was awesome.
Hell yeah, no.
I think it's incredibly well structured. I think that you could make a case that this is really what Snyder is trying to say about the weird and interconnected relationship that Batman and the Joker have, and for him to take something stupid that happened in Tony S. Daniels' Detective Comics and make it into this fantastic, I think, study on how weird Batman and the Joker are together. I think it's the case that you can make the case that this is Snyder's best story that he did for New 52. I don't know about some of the tie-ins. A lot of those, like some of those for me are just nostalgia, but I'll admit, like some of them I just did not enjoy. But you have great art from Greg Capullo, and I think Patrick Gleason's Batman and Robin tie-ins to this specific Death of the Family arc, the way that he draws the Joker might be the most terrifying Joker in New 52. So you know what? I kind of agree with Maddie here. The Death of the Family. I think you can make a case for it.
Does anybody agree with Dom and Maddie on that?
It's hard for me in the sense of you say like it showed how weird the relationship with Batman and Joker are. I think I've kind of felt like it was always kind of there. We always. I just don't think it broke any new ground. It almost felt like the hype for it just for me didn't live up to it. It was interesting, but then we get it's not really much followed up after it. You know, they weren't trusting Bruce before. They still don't really trust Bruce after it in a different way. It's just further continuing down the pathway that they're already on. So it's just hard for me to say it broke any new ground.
I mean, I think I would disagree in the case that he also did continue those plot threads in Endgame and also Last Night on Earth, where we get to see the literal culmination of how he believes those two operate. I think he breaks some nice ground with it, so I will have to disagree with you.
That's okay. I still love you, Dom.
I love you too.
Okay, well, I don't love anybody, and I think it should go. That story was not that.
I want to make sure the chat understands that not all events need crossovers. You don't need to.
Correct.
Right. It's not. There's a difference between an event and a crossover event.
Something about not all events. I mean, if it has crossovers, fine, but that wasn't one of the things that we were considering in this. Is that it had to have crossovers.
Crisis on Infinite Earths is technically an event. It's not really a crossover event because Red Skies are just stupid. Like, you don't need to buy issues of Superman and Legion of Superheroes to know what's going on in Crisis. Crisis is ignoring everything else going on.
I would weigh in that I'm kind of with Omar on this one. I think the Death of the Family.
God, Lars agrees with me.
I know it is shocking, isn't it? I mean,
it is a crisis.
Yes. Do you need the smelling salts because you're feeling faint? Because again, I was one of those people who like really enjoyed Scott Snyder's early run on this. Court of Owls is really great, and then I do think Death in the Family is where it starts to go off the rails because I think he sort of loses control of his story in favor of just out and out horror. I mean, he's just like, oh, it's a horror story. Is this the one, if I'm remembering right, where like Batman's tied up at a dinner table and he tries
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Joker tries to convince Batman, oh, I've decapitated your friends and put their heads in these bowls of ice or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And that's just ridiculous. I mean, why do we need to see that?
It's ridiculously great, is what it is, Lars.
You're aware that this is all fiction, right?
Yeah, but yeah. No, I assume that nobody had been decapitated in the making of this comic.
Well, they didn't say that warning in the begging, so we have
No,
to assume
no, that's
otherwise.
right. There was not a disclaimer there, so people may have been decapitated and their pictures drawn. It gets more and more horrific, and there's not enough story value in there for me. But that was just me.
Story value. Okay.
I
actually
love this-
feel
I love
very
this
similarly.
story.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
this story. I'm just not I'm not sure how much it impacted the rest of the DC universe, like maybe 52 did. But I'm with Dom and Maddie as far as loving this story. I really love this story, and I thought this capped off. I mean, I thought the first half. This was part of the first half of that run that was so great.
Mhm.
And I like Peter's comment about this helps too. The distinction between having crossovers versus line-wide scope. No, I did like. Are you making laugh at me because I'm not defending?
Oh no, I'm going.
But I have to kind
But
of.
no, I think that is like that's what's hard for me for this. It's like one, the distinction between events and just crossovers is difficult. It's hard to like pick one.
I
which
mean,
is which.
I'm kind of like, I'm looking at this like this, right? We're talking about DC events. Batman is the most important DC character when it comes to sales and all that good stuff. So this is something that people will read and want to buy in perpetuity. It's Batman versus the Joker. Like, who doesn't want that on shelves? I think it's a good choice.
I mean,
Since they've already come out mildly against it, now let me again. I think two of Maddie's picks are kind of like Galaxy Brain picks because it's like, what if we did have a really good omnibus event book of this? A good event book of Death of the Family could have a lot more material than just the like interlocking crossover stuff that comes from all of the different Batman books at the beginning of New 52. And I think it could make it a lot more satisfying. A lot of the Joker plots were happening, if I'm remembering correctly, in Detective Comics, which was not the Scott Snyder title. So again, like, because one of the slightly different rules about the stream is like, we didn't have to rely on existing collections because DC hasn't necessarily done them well. I think a best case scenario version of Death of the Family as a book could actually be a really good read because it wouldn't just be focused on the very grim actual Scott Snyder part of Death of the Family.
I mean, if we're gonna vote for a Batman book, I'd rather see Batman with his entire rogue gallery.
So you're saying that you're going to be picking the wrong Halloween now? What does that have to do?
Like if his entire rogue gallery just got broken out of prison by some dude named Bane, which was featured in the movie, you know, like, just saying.
Omar's going to pick the
We'll
Hush
get there,
omnibus.
Omar.
We'll get to you.
But Maddie, I have
Don't worry.
to congratulate you for making us rethink DC Rebirth because I wouldn't have thought about a remapping of it. And I am someone that, you know, the New 52 often didn't work for me. I mean, that I struggled through the New 52, and Rebirth brought me back. Rebirth, it felt like, okay, we've learned some lessons now after the New 52. Let's regroup and really focus on the characters and the story. So, yeah, that was kind of a jolt in the arm for DC, I think.
Yeah, I think the it caught me off guard with the Rebirth omnibus picture because that omnibus is not anything to write home about.
If it's all first issues, that's very difficult. Yeah,
and I chose the picture. You can lay the blame squarely on me there. I did not. Maddie did not dictate that.
Yeah, so with the mapping being changed up and the build up and everything, I'm definitely okay with it being in the lineup, but I do agree with the Batman Death of the Family opinion so far. Like, I just feel like it doesn't exactly do anything different. Like we have so many stories where we have Batman versus Joker. I don't think it shakes up the DC universe comparatively to other events in, you know, other slides. So I think if we're being really picky, then I would probably boot that one off. Not saying I don't love it. It's a great story. It's great climax to that first half, but it's just it's not as strong as other choices here.
Okay. Any last words for Maddie's picks? I'm gonna take that as a no. Chris isn't here yet. Whoops. Lars. Lars.
Yes, sir. Yes. Apparently, this is the point where I just lay back, think of England, and get slaughtered.
No.
I mean, you did good.
Here's the
No
thing.
notes.
I like all three of these.
Because actually, Death of Family was my backup. Blackest Night was on there, so we would have all been
Oh,
so
yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's an
Okay.
easy pick. It's really cool, and I think it's one of the things that I read where it's not just like everything's like creepy and like undead and stuff. It's one of those books where I feel like it helps introduce you a lot to it helps get you interested in other characters. So a lot of my I'm not a big events girly personally. I don't like them. I think they don't spend time with characters. They don't develop them. They don't make me interested. They just distract from they ruin my actual storylines. But I like an event when I read it and I'm like, oh, I want to read more about these other characters and actually care about what's happening. And I think Blackest Night did that. It's very interesting. It brings all of these heroes in ways you wouldn't expect for them to be. And it's just a great time. Blackest Night is such a fun time.
I think this is one of the. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Blackest Night, I think it was Lars that said some of the tie-ins were bad, but I actually really like almost every tie-in. And I am admittedly a sucker for zombie stories and stuff like that. So maybe that's just my personal taste speaking, but it was so cool to see these characters have to go against either dead rogues or dead loved ones, whatever it may be, and have to react accordingly.
Thank you. I said that more.
And I think it's really ambitious too. When they, in some of the scenes involving the reanimated, when they illustrate it from the Black Lantern's viewpoint, and you can see how they're viewing the world in the emotional spectrum. I think it's really, really creative as far as the story goes, and it really does shake up the specifically Green Lantern world, because we get even more lore building aspects when it comes to the entire emotional spectrum and the lanterns that they represent.
Lars, I usually take the time to make fun of you and talk about how horrible your picks are.
Well, it's disappointing if you're not going to do it now.
But I feel like this time around, you really played it safe. And, you were like, I'm tired of getting made fun of. So I'm just going to go on YouTube and see what Omar choices. A couple of Near Make Edition videos and see what Omar chose as his favorite events. And
I think this just shows that a lot of DC events, there's a lot that aren't anything to write home about. We have some really solid events. And then we have some weird ones it's fine. There's
Blackest Night
it's okay.
I went safe. Yeah, I went safe because for a lack of choice in some regards.
Did you not see Peter's gigantic list of events at DC?
I did, but the problem is, see, again, a lot of these, it's not even that they're terrible. It's
Did you not
just
see Heroes in Crisis?
A lot of these,
Oh, God.
Eclipse of the Darkness Within was an
them-
option that you did not pick, Lars.
Yeah, you chose that, Lars. So I think Blackest Night is what Tyler said in Illuminerdy. I think it hits a different kind of audience. It's more of a darker tone. There's some really graphic deaths in there. I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Real quick, William, I am Team DC. There's nothing mid about
Team
it.
Marvel!
I am just
Marvel.
anti-events.
Make mine Marvel, William.
Pro DC. Thank you, sir.
This is a Marvel.
Evergreen events
Do
is
not say that to me when
zero
there's a million Wonder Womans up there, my guy.
Don't let her lie to you. She's Team Marvel too.
I mean, I like Marvel too, but I have a favorite.
I think these are solid choices. And
Blackest Night. Again, as a
let me compliment you, goddammit. These are
yeah, I have a compliment too. So
Lars, yeah, these were well thought out. Blackest Night extends to the entire DC universe. It's not just a Green Lantern story, but it will make you want to keep reading Green Lantern. And then when you get the Brightest Day, you might go, "Damn it, I made a mistake."
no, it should have just ended.
How quickly that went downhill.
Yeah.
And 52, I love. It was definitely on one of my choices. I think it's a great story. I don't know how well it will translate to non-DC readers. It doesn't feature Batman. It doesn't feature Superman. It doesn't feature Wonder Woman. It is the story of Booster Gold and Renee Montoya and Steele and a couple of other characters. I love it. I just don't know, if we only have 8, I can kind of see it making it. It should be evergreen. It's a great story.
Booster Gold is the best, so he deserves everything.
Renee Montoya is the best, and she deserves.
I do love her a lot, but even I can't. I have to choose my boy.
Yeah, I know you got a weakness for white guys. I know. I got the same weakness for Latin women. Okay, so
wait, I'm not done with Blackest Night.
This mischaracterization I'm getting on this show. They think
it's
I'm older than I am.
What I do.
That I like. That I'm Team Marvel over DC. That I think DC's mid. And now I'm not known as the woman who loves very muscular women. What is happening on this panel?
Booster. Today? I mean, you laid the bet. Wait.
I
OmniDog.
feel like you're looking at the wrong kind of menu.
OmniDog.
I think one reason I chose Blackest Night, it got left off, but I did pick it because one, it fleshes out the emotional spectrum, and we see a lot of them in there, and I really enjoyed all the different ways they acted and interacted, and I'm with Illuminerdy on this. I thought the majority of tie-ins were really good. I had this run custom bound before, and so I've got all of them because this was one of the ones where I thought the tie-ins were all solid, and I really enjoyed, especially all the various lanterns, and I thought it was this whole series I thought was really well done.
I just want to, quote, zombie stories really aren't my jam on the whole. I really just don't care. But Blackest Night, I think the thing what makes it work is that they are constantly confronted by someone they genuinely loved who has died. And there's something, it is a very personal story for so many characters.
When Hawkman and Hawkgirl get killed at the beginning.
And either they, there's that too. Rough, yeah. And you do kind of worry, well, how can they possibly win this? It's like Game of Thrones. Every person who's killed joins the enemy, which is a huge problem.
Well, there's always hope, right?
Lars is spoiling things that aren't even the topic of the stream.
That's my job. That's my job. Yeah.
Anybody got anything negative to say about Lars' picks, not Lars himself as a human being?
Oh,
no.
I mean, I'm probably not voting for Blackest Night.
Really?
I don't like Jeff Johns, and I don't like violent stories that kill characters I like, so it just does absolutely nothing for me.
There's an awful lot of Johns that I read it once and I just don't.
Wow, I thought we were really good buddies. You don't like Jeff Johns at all?
Ooh. What book have I don't know if I can name a single comic by Jeff Johns that I've ever enjoyed. Wow. Actually, I do. I kind of like Darkseid War. Darkseid War. There you go. One book.
Of all the Jeff Johns, you went with the New 52.
Well, it has Jason Fabok art, so I can ignore the words a little bit more.
I don't even know you sometimes, man. Okay. I need another beer. I thought this was a 3-beer problem. I think it's going to be like a 6-beer problem.
Darkseid, that's right.
Darkseid, that's right.
My friend
At least I didn't say Geoff Johns like I usually do. We covered that, I think, on some show this week. It's all faded together.
I mispronounce shit all the time. Chris is not here. I actually like his pick of our world.
Well, hold on. Let's come back. He's got to hear what we have to say about him, or else he can't be effectively shamed.
He'll be back in 6.
Okay.
All right,
I got to rip this apart. Who wants to rip it apart?
Wait. Okay. Before we go crazy, I actually like a lot of Wonder Woman. War of the Gods. That was almost my choice as a backup. I thought it was great. It's fun, and it's a Wonder Woman centric story, and it's George Perez with some really, really like young Phil Jimenez artwork in there, doing some fill-in stuff. And it's a good story. It's a fun story. Legends, I don't think has been dated that way. I think everything in Legends has been retconned. Although I do like a lot of what John Byrne was doing in that book. 0 Hour. Man, people hate that book.
Why? It's so amazing. What is wrong? This is one of those ones. I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm just giving contextual information.
Amazingly mid.
This is one of those ones that before I got online, I assumed it was universally loved.
No, it's not.
Because I love it so much. And then I got online and I was like, wait, people are not obsessed with this comic book. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I haven't read any of these actually, and like as we were talking about, I was like, oh my god, I have to like.
When we got some new,
You were
old
selling
reader
it for
readers
me,
to
so I was
do
like,
that.
That's good.
thank you for filling in my schedule for the year. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So 0 Hour was kind of like the follow-up to Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's Crisis in Time, right?
Yep.
It's DC going, okay, we got too many time travelers. We've got too many timelines again. We need to like fix this. I kind of dug what they did with Hal Jordan and how he ended up becoming this is where he becomes the Parallax. He names himself Parallax. Everybody thinks the bad guy is Extant. Is that his name? And I'm not gonna reveal who that is.
Yes.
Who's under that mask.
It's so
but-
cool.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like Hal Jordan, and you're like, holy shit, he really is really bad. Thank you for that, TikTok Tina, White Cat cosplay. There are some really cool moments. I know you don't like Jeff Johns, but if you had read some of Jeff Johns' JSA, there's a beautiful, beautiful follow-up to 0 Hour. And something that he does with the JSA. Remember the JSA gets aged up or killed in 0 Hour? That's why Jess hates it. Those were his heroes growing up.
But it was like viscerally terrifying to me as a reader because like not fully knowing who they are, I'm like, ooh, like this is so much scarier than them just dying. It's basically like somebody saying sliding time scale doesn't apply to anymore. I'm like, as a comic book fate goes, that is pretty serious.
So that's a maybe for me, and so is War of the Gods, but Legends just the only one that I don't think has aged well. You gave it a really good pitch, though. I really like a lot of the story and the whole Suicide Squad. I forgot about the Suicide Squad playing a huge part in this. As a matter of fact, it's featuring the Suicide Squad's first appearance. And that is going to be part of the Suicide Squad Omnibus coming out later this year. This video is not sponsored by DC Comics.
So I haven't read any of these. And I know.
Were you born when any of these came out, Sean?
Can you believe how young he is?
Right? And you're like, I wasn't born when Crisis on Infinite Earths came out. Unlike all these old motherfuckers in this panel.
No. That was definitely not my intention. You're all young at heart and you're beautiful people. Now let's move on.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
We'll
cover that
Peter.
when we get to your slide.
Now, so what I want to say to you, Peter, is A, you were right. You do have the best hair. And B, I love your streams. You've been doing fantastic. I say all that to say that I don't believe that any of these belong on the evergreen list. 0 Hour, I have only ever received the feedback of don't buy this. War of the Gods, I'm hearing of for the first time right now. And Legends, I have zero context for. But according to Omar, it's all retconned anyway, so why bother?
No.
Sean's invited.
No. You should.
You have to join Over Your New Reader. I guess we decided in the chat that.
Let's do it.
You're not going to read this. So.
I'm a firm believer in that you should read everything and judge it for yourself. I was just stating that 30th anniversary edition really doesn't mean anything because everything has been retconned by now. This was great right after Crisis on Infinite Earths. It made sense. But right now it's like, what? That's not how Batman, like, there's I don't know. That's the only one I have an issue with. But I do love the fact that you haven't read any of them. That's good. You've made some good choices, Peter. Those are obscure.
Yeah.
What about you, Illuminerdy? Have you read any of these?
I read 0 Hour, War of the Gods, and I read Legends maybe once in my entire life of reading comics. So I can't speak too in depth as far as Legends, but kind of similarly, I think if I made it this far into my reading career and I haven't had to revisit it or reread it, I would say it's probably not that important to the DC universe. 0 Hour, I definitely think should be on the list.
Whoa!
I agree with everything Omar said. It is Crisis on Infinite Earths, but for the timeline, Hal Jordan, Parallax, probably my third favorite DC villain ever. War of the Gods, I'm kind of in the same boat with the Rebirth. I wouldn't mind it being on the list, but if we're choosing 8, I could see it maybe being pushed out. But right now, I would give it a yes. So that's where I'm at currently.
Okay. Does anybody agree with any of Peter's choices?
No.
Damn.
This is hard because I haven't read it. I want to agree because I like the passionate explanation, but I don't have enough basis to say yes or no.
Well, sometimes this is a pitch show. You guys have pitched me a couple. I won't reveal which ones I haven't read, but there's at least one I haven't. But I'm going off the pitch.
All right. So I know OmniDog and Lars have had to have read all three of these. This was
because we're old. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I was going to say. It's because you were in your 40s when most of these came out, I think.
Oh, that's being kind. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome,
Christ.
buddy. I got you. Peter messaged me going, Lars and OmniDog picked the same books, and I immediately replied going, God damn old people. Of course they picked the same books.
Of course we did. Yes. We have to stick together because there's fewer of us because we're dying off.
No, stop it. Stop it.
No,
Just
okay.
relax
so
there, Spider-Man bathroom.
Yes. Okay. But actually, Jess, you want to go first, or shall I?
About what? These choices?
These choices.
I feel like War of the Gods is I really like that, but I also like it as part of his whole run, kind of more in context with this whole run. But I could vote for War of the Gods. I don't know how much time I have left on this earth, but I'm not spending a single second even considering 0 Hour and Legend.
Wow.
Harsh.
Ouch.
And yes, I hope I have a Spider-Man bathroom that Lars can relieve himself at in my funeral.
These two. No. Yours would be a Harley Quinn bathroom.
No, yours would be a Feral Lad bathroom, and definitely
I would gladly.
No one is allowed in my Harley Quinn room.
Yeah, I might even be willing to spend some time in there. I mean, if it's a Feral Lad.
All right. Stay on target, Lars.
Yeah.
Stay on target.
I'm sorry, Jesse, you done?
Yes.
Okay. I will probably vote for War of the Gods. Here's the thing. George Priz's art is stunning. I like War of the Gods, even though I've struggled to get through it because I feel it's a bit misconceived because it feels like suddenly the DC characters are supporting characters. You almost think like George is just using any excuse to have a big mythology battle.
Yeah.
They did this previously in New Teen Titans. In his New Teen Titans run, they did like 2 issues of the Greek gods fighting each other. And that worked wonderfully because George is so good at drawing those designs. But it was only 2 issues and the Titans still had an important role to play. And here I just feel like he really just wants to be he would be happy the DC characters were left out and just doing the gods in it. So I've struggled to get through it, but recognizing it's good. I just need to probably strap myself into a chair, prise open my eyeballs, reenact the 101 scene from 1984, and read it. No, but it is genuinely very good, but I've struggled some. 0 Hour, I don't even hate 0 Hour. I think I just read it and I went, and that was it. Yeah. It's not terrible, but I just can't quite get there. So
remember, we're not going for how good something is, though. We're also going for evergreen because it has to be something that
I'm not convinced this is a book people must have, or they're
evergreen.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that people's comic lives will not be fruitful if they.
Everybody patted you two on the back for having great choices, and now you two are just tearing everybody apart.
Isn't that how it goes on here? Isn't that the idea?
It is.
I'll
probably vote for War of the Gods and Legends. Yeah, it's got John Byrne art. It is the introduction of the Suicide
Squad.
My
vote for Legends and not 0 Hour, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe. I think it's a better read. Frankly, John Byrne's art is great. Now it's the introduction of the Suicide Squad, but there's a hell of a lot going on that has nothing to do with the Suicide Squad.
Good
Yeah,
thing
no,
you didn't pick Millennium.
these are. Yeah, I don't know. This is odd selection here.
Odd selection. Okay.
Yeah,
Don,
Selection.
I think you're our youngest panelist.
I am the youngest panelist
You or
here.
Sean? I don't know.
I've read all of these books. I have read 0 Hour 3 times, twice for a book club, and once because of the
You
overviews
loved
I do
it.
on this channel.
I would quit that.
Yes, this 0 hour, is my #1 crisis ever in
What?
DC.
You mean
I'm
number
telling
2
you.
because I'm your number
Whoa.
1 crisis.
That's
ever.
right.
Let's
Crisis from crushingcrisis.com is my #1 crisis. No,
He can't even spell crisis. He spelled it correct.
like a kryptonite crisis.
Yeah, I do find it interesting because 0 hour does give us the sense of hyper time and also parallax Hal Jordan, and with what Williamson's been doing in his DC stuff and how Markway does a lot of what he built up in Absolute Power to lead into the All-In special that we have. I do think that there are elements of this coming back, which is why DC has had this super big propensity to not only put out a reprint of the Omnibus, but also to do DC's finest events and have this as the key point. I do think that there is something to say for 0 hour making its way here. Unfortunately, man, I don't think it should be an evergreen. I think we have better representation of other crises that make sense to what I think a lot of people think should be like, oh, like this is either a good starting on point or this is an event with characters that I recognize. I just think with the continuity laced in the 90s, specifically with this event, it's probably, in my opinion, I do think it is one of the hardest crises to get into just because of how messy a lot of characters are in here and all the status quos that you're setting with this. So even for that note, I probably will not say yes to 0 hour. And I think I agree with Jess on War of the Gods in the case that I prefer this just to be overall with reading through Perez Wonder Woman, but I would never vote for it as an evergreen DC event because I think that there are better representations of what a DC event is and what DC structures itself as. This is your cool event of the summer, cool event of the winter. War of the Gods, I don't think is one of them. And I think Legends is just too obscure to the regular mind to have it as far as putting it as an evergreen. So it's going to be a no from me as well. So I love you, Peter. I just don't think that these, from a DC editorially prescribed standstill, categorize themselves as evergreens.
Well, you know what they say, Peter. Nothing matters before the word but. Okay, hold up. That's an actual great name for a Superman story. How is there not already a story called Kryptonite Crisis? Well, there is a Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite from the 90s.
In the Triangle years, baby.
Yeah. Jerry Ordway and Dan Jorgens. Yeah, Crisis isn't as original as people, as he leads people to believe that he is. By Crisis, I mean Peter. Anybody else got anything horrible to say about Peter or his choices for books?
I don't think
No, Peter, I love you. You're great.
At all.
That's my comment.
All right.
Can we go back to Chris now?
Let's go back to
Yes, we should go back to Chris. Chris,
Hi.
I love this Our Worlds at War pick. This is what I was hoping for from people on the stream, like picking things that are maybe not the most obvious book that everybody's read. Because here's where I am on Evergreen. Some of you pick the evergreens because like they're a popular book. I want to pick evergreens because the story is like infinitely rereadable. And I agree with everything you said in your walkthrough about Our Worlds at War. I think it's a cool story. I think it's something that's like really like meaty. And also it's got a lot of the DC universe in it without you needing to understand the entire depth and breadth of DC continuity. And it's got some really good art throughout as well. Like to me, this is one of the most interesting picks that I like actually am really, really excited to vote for on the show. Flashpoint, I have to say, in the same way that 0 Hour is a book that I assumed everybody in the internet liked until I got on the internet and learned about the internet, I just assumed everybody on Earth hated Flashpoint, and it just was this awful footnote that like nobody would ever care to reference or read again because, oh my gosh, what an utter disaster of a comic book. And then here it is on multiple lists. So it goes to show you there are surprises in store for you every day in your life.
Well,
I would not use Flashpoint as a doorstop. I would not use it to prop my car up to change the tire. I would not use it. I don't know what I would use it for really, other than to maybe start a fire.
Remember, it's not about how good the stories are, Peter. Not always, okay?
I like equating the internet to Eobard Thawne, just going, it was me, Barry. It was me all along.
Yeah, I'm basically on Peter's side with that one. Oh, not me with the vitriol, but here's the thing. Flashpoint, again, Jeff Johns does this. It's the encapsulation of sort of in a way forever soiling Barry Allen, because you have this bright, shiny, happy character in The Flash. All right. He runs around. He's got colorful villains. It's all bright. And let's saddle him with the tragedy of his mother was brutally killed. His father is arrested for the crime. Which I think he cannot now get away from that. He is now a tragic character. Even in the TV show, they kind of address this. They're like, even if you fix things, Barry, your mother's still dead. It's not going to fix things. So yeah, this is the encapsulation of it. I'm kind of with Peter. I can't stand Flashpoint.
Well, I think both of you are wrong. I love Flashpoint. I think Barry Allen is the greatest messenger. That scene makes, oh my God, manly eye sweat. I love it, man. It's 5 issues. I don't need the whole omnibus. I'm okay with the just 5-issue miniseries. It's about a son trying to do whatever it takes to save his mother, and whatever it takes is creating a whole new world. I think it's a really powerful story. I don't know what happened to Peter. I joked about Peter having a bleeding gizzard and not a heart. I think just this week, although he may grow a heart eventually. But yeah, I think this has a lot of heart. Lars, it makes sense. Lars doesn't like happiness, so I understand.
What?
But,
I just proposed the opposite.
I'm on board with Flashpoint, but is it a happy book?
it has a happy ending.
I mean,
It's a good ending.
I
It
guess.
has hope. I mean, isn't that what
if
we
your
live for?
universe survives, it's got a happy ending.
Well, yeah. This is the other problem with this fight.
Rebirth. It goes right into Maddie's rebirth. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a good choice.
The problem is both here and in the TV show. Once Barry makes the attempt to go back and save his mother, he is then responsible for everything that happens afterward. Everything. And,
Yeah, that's okay.
Well,
You don't think he can't hold the responsibility?
I think it soils his heroic character. But
I like your Our Worlds at War pick. I think it's a really strong pick. Like I said, lots of characters end up dying that you don't expect to be dying in a Superman comic book. But it is a big event crossover. You already know I'm down with Blackest Night. This is gonna be tough. I don't know. Our Worlds at War is a maybe. Flashpoint, I think it's a yes from me, but I guess we'll wait. I didn't know so many people hated it.
I'm
no idea
pro
Peter
Flashpoint personally, but I really like. It's not about. I mean, I didn't have the background of like spending time with Barry before this, reading it. I don't have that connection to him really, but like I like it for the same reason I like a lot of like Elseworlds things, because I like to see what could have changed. That's where I feel happiest. So to me, it's like, oh, it's a fun like. What would have happened if this is, and like, I like it for that. I like seeing how the characters develop on the other side of it. I don't see it as a happy book. I see it as a big old bummer, but I like that.
It's not all bad, because it does generate the character of, the alternate timeline where Bruce's father survived and becomes Batman and Bruce dies. It's like, oh, that is kind of an interesting angle.
That was the best story of all.
Yeah. That I'm glad was in there, and that I'm glad they pursued later on, because that was a good idea.
I mean, it's had an omnibus, it's had a box set, it's had a absolute edition, it's had a crappy movie.
We don't talk about it.
We don't talk about that one. Yeah, there is a reason why that book keeps selling. Jess, you're a Barry guy, right? Like, how did this make you feel?
I actually, as I just said, I think that Batman Night of Vengeance is the best, one of my all-time favorite Batman stories ever. Not a lot. I had this custom bound because I had so many of the issues. I did read them all, and I'd be interested in hearing Chris's defense of Canterbury Cricket to see if
I didn't say all the times were great. I didn't say that.
I know I like the main story a lot. This was one where I mean, if this is just the main story, I think I can definitely vote for it. But if it's, it couldn't be all the tie-ins, because that'd be like a 3 omnibus set. But
it's just the one. No, it's just the one.
Yeah, it's just one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that well, but it's omnibus.
Okay, so I think I can vote. A lot of the tie-ins seem to be really kind of superfluous to me. I really enjoyed the idea of a depowered a super kid stuck in a lead-lined basement, and I thought that was interesting. An interesting angle. There are a lot of interesting angles, but I feel like I would rather just have the core story here. I could definitely vote for the core story here.
Okay.
Because
I've never
like it.
I've never read Our Worlds at War. I can't go for a book I don't know about. But again, if we're
A lot of
talking
people buy books
evergreen,
like that.
That's all I do.
Sean's a reader though. He's not much of a collector. Like Sean,
Yeah.
look at his house.
Oh yeah,
For God's sake, he's the only one without bookcase.
he lived in the
you
Spanish age.
you can't beat the piano, bro. But yeah, I think if we're only doing 8, even if we were doing 10, I just don't see how this book makes it. Flashpoint is, if I were putting together a list of 8 books and it was just me, Flashpoint would definitely be on there. I don't think there's a way around it. It is, whether you like it or not, it's one of the most groundbreaking and important DC stories to come out of the last 20 years. And Black is Night is fantastic. I love it.
It got me back into reading along with New 50. I actually liked about half of New 52, and this is what helped get me back into comics collecting was Flashpoint.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like tiptoeing around. Majority of the 8 are probably going to be like either crisis events or very well-known events like Blackest Night. So I do think Our Worlds at War, if I would lump it into the same category as Rebirth and War of the Gods, but I would say this one's at the top of the pack. I do think it stands on its own 2 feet. It is a more Superman focused story, but you obviously have a lot of aspects of the story that shake up the DC universe that everybody else has hinted on. But Flashpoint, I do think performs really well as not only an event, but I do like a lot of the tie-ins also. And I like the world building and how much those characters are played with and kind of flipped on their head from what's done with Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne to Superman. We get to see a completely, almost opposite version of Superman. So I really do like these 2 picks. Our Worlds at War is a little on the backside, but Flashpoint, I think, is definitely a shoe-in for sure.
Okay. Dom, what about you, buddy? Any thoughts on Our Worlds at War and Flashpoint?
I would never put Our Worlds at War in an evergreen event, but I appreciate Chris for thinking ahead of the out of left field pick as far as what I would believe to be at a DC editorially mandated prescribed list. Flashpoint, I understand the criticism for it. I understand the anti-Johns crowd. A lot of who I know are close friends of mine. I know a lot of people don't care for the story, don't care for the trauma inducing, but I cannot tell you how many times people have come up to me and said, Dom, I just read Flashpoint. It was my first Flash story. Where do I go next with this? And I think
on the streets, like when you're walking down the street, they just come up to you randomly.
Yeah, they just find them.
Yeah, you know me. I've got them.
Yeah, and you're saying, who are you? Yeah, exactly.
Look, let me just say this, Dom. Lars and Peter, they're just Snyder bros. Okay.
Yes,
dude.
Yes. Anyone who knows us, that is exactly.
I'm so far away from being a Snyder bro that I also don't like Scott Snyder.
Oh my gosh!
I'm trying to think of who you do like.
Same, actually.
But no, I do think, and I understand the immense the criticisms for the book, but I think if you were just to have, this is an event, this is something that is literally going to shape the entire universe, whatever way you would like to call it, it has to be there. And I do think with the adage of not only the son and mother story that you alluded to earlier, Omar, I think if we just kept it in this own pocket universe, the stuff with Thomas and him wanting his son to get a better life is so well done in the series that for that case in point, you just got to have it on there on the emotional adage for this book. So I probably will vote Flashpoint. We shall see, but that is how I do feel about those books.
Okay, thank you. I think everybody has shared their thoughts. Peter? No, you've already said what you thought about Flashpoint and
Peter definitely
World
airs
at
his
War.
thoughts.
Yeah.
I
And
believe I
Lars
may have
doesn't wanna hold a
initiated that
car
whole
up with
conversation.
Flashpoint.
They don't. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I forgot what you two said. You're so easy to forget. Okay, let's move on. Next to Dom of X's choices, which I think we've talked about.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Who was it? Oh, who was it that could not? Oh, Peter can't get down with Blackest Night. Right? Was there anybody
Or
else
Infinite Crisis.
or Infinite Crisis? Didn't like Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, I think Lars didn't like Infinite Crisis also.
Yeah, I never said
Yeah.
that. Don't put words in my mouth. I just don't like Jeff Johns, but Infinite Crisis, I guess, is okay.
I guess it's okay. That should be the perfect
That
friend.
Your words I can put in your mouth.
There's the pull quote for the cover.
I actually love villains like Superboy Prime. Like, that's my favorite type of supervillain. A guy that is so overpowered, he doesn't know how to control it, but is also immature. Like, that is my favorite type of villain. Like,
Is that what you aspire to become?
no, because those people exist in real life, right? Like,
Well, that
Aspire
is
to be
true.
Yeah.
Skywalker.
somebody that has a lot of superpowers, didn't deserve it, and doesn't know how to control it. That's all I will say. That is my favorite type of supervillain in this. Oh my god! And there's Peter. How could you? Wait, no, you said no, Lars. How could you not love that scene with Golden Age Superman fighting him? And he's like,
Yeah.
you don't have the right to wear the S. You don't know what it stands for.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's
Sure.
so good.
No. I mean, it's got its moments. I don't deny that it's got its moments.
Batman holding the gun to the
also-
Joker.
Also, by the way, to complete the tragedy, as if making all these characters evil who should not be evil, and then they kill off the Golden Age Superman. I'm like, no. I just can't.
Well,
abide
one
by
had to go, and it wasn't going to be our Superman.
I know, but
It could have been
no.
Superboy Prime.
I got to the end. I didn't throw it down in disgust, but you know.
Shut up, Blas.
Yes.
Those are solid picks. You, my friend, and Lars played it safe. I like that. That's okay to play it safe. Nothing wrong with that. Tyler, Okay.
All right, listen. I'm not going
gotta
to
give you
defend
props.
Identity Crisis at all because no, but I will say one of my favorite comic scenes of all time is from Identity Crisis, where Sue's talking about, or like Elongated Man is talking about how like, oh, she looked at what she met everybody else in the Justice League, and he describes how beautiful and handsome and amazing and they are, and they're like, but then she chose me, and I remember like, oh, that looks amazing. Got to read the rest of that book. No, but that scene is one of my favorite of all time. I quote that scene all the time.
It's got a lot of good moments. It's got a lot of good moments. I love the scene when Tim loses his dad and Batman's holding him, and that was I thought that was done really well. I'm not the biggest fan of Rags Morales. Okay, I've talked about Identity Crisis on Old Reader, New Reader. I was on Omni Bros when I talked about Identity Crisis. I look here's the thing. It's one of these books that I think it's very divisive. People don't like it for certain reasons, and I understand because there's sexual assault in here, right? Like that's I think a lot of the reasons why a lot of people don't like it. My issue with the book is not so much because those horrible things happen in real life. My issue with the book is the way that the heroes reacted to Sue, or when that happened to her. They brainwashed the villain and made him forget it ever happened, and then they told her to keep quiet about it. Like, that was really weird. That was really weird for some of these characters that have been around for a long time and were okay with this and agreed. And I that didn't sit well with me. And I know people really like a reality when it comes to these. I mean, it was very divisive even at the time. I had a lot of issues with it. That and Deathstroke, like getting beaten down by the Justice League and they're all dogpiling on him. Especially I love New Teen Titans, and I was like, this guy like got his butt kicked by Dick Grayson. Why is the entire Justice League dogpiling on him? Yeah, I wasn't not my cup of tea, but I understand why people like it though. Like it is very like in your face, and it's things that are happening in the real world. It's just nuts.
I do want to preface too, this was not in my immediate 3. This was my backup choice before everybody tears into me, just by the way.
Wait,
dare
what's
you.
your
No,
number
we're not
4?
tearing you.
We should only start tearing into you a number 4 amount for it.
Like there are
Should have
dude,
put
there-
Heroes in Crisis there.
love
instead.
this book because of how real it is. It just
Yeah.
like to me as a comic
I'm
book
one of 'em.
reader, it didn't sit well with me with like the way that some of the heroes, not everybody, right? Because we had the whole Batman thing, and honestly, without this book, we wouldn't have one of the greatest Justice League stories, the Conscience and Crisis, which is written by Jeff Johns, co-written by actually Brad Meltzer, and I love Brad Meltzer's Green Arrow and Justice League. So that was my biggest issue with it. And the whole like, yeah, if I can nitpick, sure. Why is Jean Lorning carrying around a goddamn flamethrower with her?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's so badly plotted that she goes, well, I took a flamethrower, quote, just in case.
Who carries that with them?
Just in case of what?
She's
You
a
never know
Girl
what you
Scout.
might
She's
need.
got to be
Yeah,
prepared.
it's not a
Gotta
review
be
of any
prepared.
crisis. It's just my issues with
In
it.
case someone needs to light a Marlboro, yeah.
I know it's
We should give props real quick to Illuminerdy for having the balls to bring it up, and also
Yes.
for like
true.
he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do y'all solid. Y'all need something to argue and be upset about.
I
I'm gonna
really
bring it
was hoping
forward.
you'd bring in Heroes in Crisis.
No, I would have.
Plain man art, baby.
Do
You
it.
had to fight.
And I'll
Well,
defend it in a crisis. I've defended it before on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your show.
There we go.
There's a reason for it. This is the comic that brought me back into comics. Like I started collecting comics again when this was coming out, and it allowed me to see that, man, comics have changed in the last almost 7-8 years since I collected it. It got problems. I'm not saying I agree with everything that Meltzer does with it. I'm a Brad Meltzer fan. I love his novels. I've gotten a chance to meet him, but it's what it leads to, and the distrust that, I mean, Batman Hours had distrust at that point, but really, like they crossed a line with him that he was like, I'm done with you all. Like I love it when we get to Infinite Crisis where the Trinity is standing there in what remains of the Watchtower, and Batman goes, let's just face it, Superman, the last time you inspired anyone was when you were dead. You know? And just, you know, again, it got to that point that's saying like, man, these heroes are not heroes anymore. Like they've got secrets, and I understand why people don't like it, because they don't like the way that, you know, to your point, Omar, like some of these heroes, it doesn't fit with them, and I get that, but it was a risky move to do. But it's one of those that I will defend up and down, but I'll also accept any and all criticism about it because I think they're all fair.
Yeah.
But I get why it's not going to be voted, and I'm okay with that.
Well, you don't know. I mean, I don't know Sean or Dom's choice or Peter's choice. Lars, I can see by the disgust on his face that he's not a fan of, and I know how OmniDog.
Look, let me just chime in that in my own shy and you know, a delicate way, that I think this Identity Crisis is an abomination before the Lord. As if I could, I would exorcise its demonic soul, cast it into a bunch of swine, run them off a cliff, and drown them. Okay.
Lars, tell me how you really feel. I don't.
Yes,
think we've all
I know.
understood.
I know.
Why do you have to involve innocent pigs in this? You're killing pigs.
He lives in Iowa. There are no innocent pigs in Iowa.
No,
They've
I
eaten
think,
people.
I think yes. I think it's a bad idea when it came out. I still think it's a bad idea. And Peter, did you comment to the? Did you mention in the chat that it takes DC down a path where basically their constant stance is there are no heroes. There are no heroes. There are no heroes. We're trashing our heroes. It didn't stop here. This is where it started. And it was a long phase to get out of. And I mean, finally they get down the road. They're like, oh, the heroes are acting heroic again and actually caring about if people live or die. Oh, awful.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna hear it. No Illuminerdy likes it, obviously. Dom, what do you think of Identity Crisis? Or I know how you feel about Infinite and Flashpoint, but what about Identity Crisis?
As a comic book fan and as a nerd, I hate it just simply for the Deathstroke fight scene. I am sorry. I have read a billion Teen Titans comics, and you cannot tell me straight to my face that Deathstroke would be able to do that with the way that he did in the way that he does it. So for that simple fact, without every single one of the other baggages that's added onto it, I'm hell no to this. I love you, Illuminerdy, but I'm sorry, man. It's my brain just can't wrap around that, and I don't think Brad Meltzer understands power scaling.
I love that. That's the thing that gets. Yes.
You already took all the other words out of my mouth. I don't need to say anything else that already hasn't been said. But I just
I know
I can't.
Dom doesn't like it for a lack of realism, is what he's saying.
Wait, when is the round when we defend our choices, or is this that round?
Well, I want to hear from Peter first, and then you can defend it. You can have your last final thoughts of the night.
I mean, there's a lot of books I love to hate and I think are fun to talk about because, we've got really polarizing opinions about. And then there's books that I just don't acknowledge.
So you're not a fan of Legends, DC Legends? Okay. Sean, what about you, dude? I know you've read all three of these, right?
Yes, I have. Look, Identity Crisis. That's the book where, like, when I got on the internet and saw people's opinions, I was surprised that people didn't like it because I thought it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely recognize all the criticisms, and I'm not interested in defending the book in any way. So I'm just going to talk about whether or not it belongs on the list. And that I would have to say no. Like, my personal feelings about the book aside, I just can't see how, if we're doing 8, this would be a representative of a crisis. I don't think it's a great representation of DC. I enjoy the book, but I don't think it's a good book to put out there as like, this is what DC stands for. This is what DC is. I don't think it fits that mold.
Okay. And I think that's Chris. Chris defended it.
Yep, I did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go ahead, Illuminerdy. You got 30 seconds to defend yourself.
So I disagree with Lars when he said that everything was dark after this. I think every event ever is about a unwavering sense of morality that these heroes have, and this was one of those instances where we did not see that. We were able to see the darker side of these heroes. And I also disagree with that it shouldn't be in a evergreen event list, because this is what you kind of want an event to be. This shakes up the DC universe. This shakes up the hierarchy and the standings of the Justice League. Yes, there's plot holes and upsetting plot devices that are included, but I have yet to read a single comic that's perfect. So I think it should be in that list because it really does everything that an event should when it comes to changing the characters, making you think about certain characters differently, and kind of just putting a different tone on the universe as a whole. Hope that was 30 seconds.
In the defense of the book, Identity Crisis has a 4.8 out of 5 stars rating on Amazon. Look at that.
Yeah, but Illuminerdy's 9 out of 10 of those reviews.
And like I always tell people, I think you should read it and judge it for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody's opinion guide you in any kind of way. It's just the way that and when we're doing these kind of streams, I think we do need to bring up some of the things. And like I said, I understand. I will say it sells really well. There's been an absolute edition, deluxe editions, many printings of this book. So people do want it. Like, there is a want for this book.
Yeah.
Right.
I personally think it's one of those titles that it's popular to dislike. And when you're in a crowded room, you say, yeah, screw Identity Crisis. And then as soon as you go to your room, it's the first comic you're opening and reading.
Oh God, no! No.
Are you?
Well, we're in a crowded room right now.
Are you related to Brad Meltzer? I don't.
To me.
Okay. Sean's choices, everybody.
Wait. Before you go on, Omar, can I just can you rep my shirt out so Sean can see it? Sean, I might defend you later,
Hey.
but I got this in Vegas 5 years ago, and I'm happy to be wearing on the stream. That's it.
That is incredible, dude. Oh, I love that.
Thank you. That's it.
There we go. I thought you were gonna have an identity crisis shirt when you were like, because you were like before you move on.
Why would I
That would
ever
have been
get one of
ballsy.
those?
Put a
That would
twist.
have been ballsy.
I would never.
I love that Sean, who came right out and said he hadn't read any of mine because I'm turning to dust while he enjoys his eternal youth. Not only led off with Crisis, but gave the best pitch for Crisis that anybody gave. I mean, I of course I'm familiar with it and have feelings on it and own it in several versions, but I don't know that I was like inspired by anybody's pitch for Crisis on Infinite Earth until yours. So like I was thinking about maybe voting against it just out of like boredom of like, yeah, okay, we know. But now I don't even think I can do that because you just were the things you had to say about it were so interesting.
Oh, well, thank you.
However, and not just because you didn't script ahead of time, but just because I've actually read it in such excruciating detail, I don't know if I can get on sides with Forever Evil. It just kept happening. But that's, yeah, but I like that you picked it. I think it's interesting that people really shied away from picking a lot of like New 52 and newer stuff. I almost put Beast World on mine. I think there's a lot of
voted for that.
and there's
I
a lot of
would've
people in the
voted for that.
chat asking why we didn't do like Dark Knight's Metal and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of fun toyetic events. And here's my thing, if I can tangent for a moment. To me, Dark DC Universe never really works. DC is more toyetic to me than Marvel. That's maybe just because of the age of DC that I grew up with. So Forever Evil to me is how you can do kind of like a dark villainy DC event because they're all just still toys. Once DC starts getting really like grim, that DC universe doesn't exist in Crisis World. So that's where I really get lost, which brings me to Doomsday Clock. Sean, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I hated it so much as I was reading it in singles. But I think about it so often and like I've gone back to it and enjoyed it. I almost feel like maybe it should have just come out as a graphic novel and never been singles. And it's hard for me to divorce how much I hated the singles in my mind from how fun it is to think about as a whole. And I don't have an answer. I'm seriously conflicted to this day about whether I liked it or not.
Could I quickly respond to that point?
Yeah, I would love it.
I just wanted to say that, like, I agree with you that the rollout was ridiculous and it took way too long, but that is now past us,
right?
And new people won't have that baggage that we
They're
have.
never gonna have to experience that again, like we had to.
Right.
I guess for me though, it's not only the slow rollout, but there are individual issues of it that, for pacing reasons, I like hated so much. And then when you read it together, it's like, oh no, actually, it rhymes, it mirrors, it makes sense. But like as comic book issues, they were bad. But I never had the experience of reading Watchmen as single issues. I read that as a graphic novel. So who am I to judge?
I will
Yeah,
say Doomsday Clock gets thrown into the whole Watchmen follow-up, but I don't think it's much of a Watchmen story. I think it's one of the best Superman stories.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, it is one of the best Superman stories you're going to read. I think it shows you the importance of Superman in the DC universe. I think it's it's going to be tough not to vote that one in because I do agree with a lot of what Sean said. It's got beautiful artwork by Gary Frank. I think it definitely is an event. It kind of brings everything together. You are kind of suckered, obviously, even the way that the book is designed, into thinking that this is a follow-up to Watchmen. But what you're really getting is Superman is the most important figure in the DC universe. And it's awesome. And that payoff
makes me think. Like I just think about the way there's so many comic stories about Superman is hope, or like the new Absolute Universe. What happens if we have no hope? What happens to the heroes then? But Doomsday Clock like made me really sit down and think about like, wow, there's been so many World Without Superman stories, but I just like sat down and really thought like, wow, let's think about what it means to not just remove Superman, but just tinker with small parts of what makes Superman have humanity. And what happens if we just take away small elements? You don't even have to erase him or change him into some crazy communist version of Superman. What if you just remove tiny slivers of hope from his life. What is the knock-on effect of that through the whole DC universe? I'm giving myself chills just talking about it right now. This is
Look
what I
at
mean,
that.
Sean. Like, I do kind of love it.
Baby, that's the Jeff Johns effect, baby. That's the
I
Jeff
know it's
Johns.
like Jeff Johns. What are you doing to me? It's like my body is turning against me.
It's a
I
thoughtful
really
comic.
like this Forever Evil pick, honestly. I was surprised there weren't more of these like fun one-off, like not one-off, but like these fun almost exceptions, like the like Crisis of There's Infant Crisis. So I was expecting more Dark Knight's Metal. I was expecting stuff like this. So I'm glad that this is on the list. I think we have to include, you know, some of these other fun ones as well that show you some of the other side of DC. I can't speak to Doomsday Clock because I haven't read it, but now everybody's really selling me on it. Because I'm sorry, not a Watchmen fan. But it makes me want to read this. So maybe that will change. But yeah, good picks.
You know, one of the things I think I like what everyone said, the art is outstanding. I love it. I love my absolute edition with it. Every time I read the story, I do like the story. I think my problem is what it was. They kept on talking it up to be, and I can't ever shake it.
Yeah.
You know, what they were trying
Well,
to build
that's
up.
because they pick Scott Snyder over Jeff Johns.
No, I get that, but it was just
that was the editors, man. Yeah.
That's the
same.
thing that always haunts me, because if I never knew that, it reads like a totally different story to me. It reads like a bottle. It wasn't leading towards anything. It was just a very interesting look at it. And to your point, like, yeah, Watchmen have to be part of it, but it's not really. It's not about the Watchmen, and like you said, it's a good Superman story, but it's always lurking in the back of my mind and saying, ugh, you know, what could have been? Where was this all leading to? So that's why it's hard for me to shake it, and I hate voting against it because it's one of the ones that I always try to enjoy reading it, but it's always that one thing's haunting me in the back of the head. That's why it's hard for me to vote it in.
Got you. Okay. Maddie, what are your thoughts? Oh, you haven't read Doomsday Clock. We talked about Crisis. Jess, you're at the very top. Forever Evil. What did you think about that storyline?
Excuse me. I like that storyline a lot, but I enjoyed it more in context with the entire Justice League. I love Justice League New 52, and I enjoyed that storyline in within context of Justice League. So I don't know that I would necessarily need to see this evergreen, as I'd like to see Justice League, both volumes of Justice League New 52 evergreen. But I'm 100% behind Doomsday Clock in the absolute size. All that world building that you need the absolute size, because you can actually read, you know, the newspapers and the posters and things that went into all that world building. And I can't emphasize enough how much I agree with Omar on this, about just how important Superman, it's a Superman book, and one of the best Superman books. It just shows how important he is to the DC universe. And I started, I think I've read it 4 times, and I started out lukewarm on it, and then the more and more I read it, the more and more I loved it. So I'm 100% behind this pick.
Lars, you're a man of hate. What?
How dare you?
There's no joy left in you. It's been sucked out of you back in the 1980s.
So that means he's a big fan of Doomsday Clock.
Oh my goodness.
So you probably love Forever Evil. No, what do you think about Sean's choices? Obviously, besides Crisis. What do you think?
I found Forever Evil. I kind of forgettable. I don't hate it. This is the problem, is that an awful lot of these events, you feel like they're governed by, there was just a sense of, oh, it's time for us to do an event. What's the best idea we have? And, you know, instead of like, if someone had marched in there and gone, hey, I've got a great idea for a super story, and this is how we're going to do it. Okay. But it's just like, I don't know. It just felt like another one of those that they're just kind of filling the schedule with. I don't remember much about it, if I'm being honest, because I didn't find it that memorable. Doomsday Clock, I weirdly agree with most of what's been said here. It shouldn't. there should be no need for a Watchmen sequel. I know you can argue, well, is it Watchmen or Superman? But there should be no need for this book. But it really is interesting. And Gary Frank's art carries it through and is astonishing. And yeah, it shouldn't be worthy, but it is. So yeah, I'll probably vote for that one. Yeah.
Whoa.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
I mean,
Sean.
well, because like, and that's a rare thing about with the Watchmen characters. 'Cause, like all of the before Watchmen stuff, even the stuff that's good. Again, you go, do we really need this? But this one, yeah, this one had something to say. It didn't feel like just a retread of Watchmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not.
And I feel like Forever Evil, like Jess made a lot of good points with it, saying that it just performs better as like part of the Justice League New 52 run. Like it is kind of forgettable when it comes to like scale, and especially when we're looking at like other events that have been on this list. But I mean, Doomsday Clock, I think it got really bogged down by not only its release dates, but the kind of money grab idea behind it being a Watchmen sequel, where I think it just kind of stands on its own 2 feet as its own story. And I think Sean like hit the nail on the head when it comes to the storytelling of the entire stories leading to this supposed inevitable fight between Dr. Manhattan and Superman. And then we don't even get that. And instead it just tells this heartwarming and inspiring story about the importance behind Superman and the DC universe. And then obviously Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, that's my favorite creative team. And I mean, when they get together, it's almost always gold. So I think Doomsday Clock was in an initial bad taste in people's mouth, but it's really, really grown on people for good reason. But I don't know if Forever Evil can break into the top 8.
Okay. I think Chris says Dom of X.
I appreciate you putting Forever Evil on this, Sean, and I actually might think voting it in. Honestly, I think there is a small case that you could technically put 8 Jeff Johns events, because he did like between this, Day of Judgment, Sinestro Corps War. I can keep going on down the list, and the man has written, seems like literally almost every single DC event from 1999 onwards, which is an insane thing to say. But I do agree with you in your original pitch that I thought was really well done. Of we're going to turn back and go through a point of view via the villain side, and I think in that case I might vote for it. Doomsday Clock is such a weird thing to me, because I found myself, this was like 15, 16, 17-year-old Dom on Reddit trying to argue with people whether it was good or not. And I kept going back and forth on, wait, this thing is great. This thing isn't well paced out. I didn't like what Jeff did with Firestorm. How does this work out for me? So who knows? I keep going back and forth whether I do like it or not like it at all. And it kind of feels like, I mean, this entire thing is a walk back from what they did with the New 52 and integrating the Watchmen in it, using the blockbuster flair that only Jeff Johns knows how to use, and throwing the whole Mark Millar thing with the Superman theory. And hey, we got the DCU as like this allegory for nuclear war, why so many superheroes are American. And you even get, I think, in issue 8 or 9 where they explain the meta-human theory and all these different elements. It's such a wild story, but in an experimental sense, I do think between this and you can even argue, I think, 3 Jokers, that Johns is going past his usual simplicity here, if that's the word you want to use, of being able to throw in a 12-issue series and say, what do I want to say about the DC universe? If we're going to throw Watchmen in there, what are we going to say about Watchmen? And considering all the ties he has with a lot of Alan Moore throwbacks, I'm so torn on this, because I want to say I like it, but there's also like the distinct half side of me that hates this book and everything that it stands for. But I really am glad that you threw this on here just as a precursor to, we're walking back from the New 52. We got to do something to explain what's been going on in the last couple of years as to why this flashpoint happened and what happened with Wally. And a very daring pick. And I got to say, I do like it. Although I will I will add to the Gary Frank thing. I do feel like the 9-panel grid sometimes stunts him in cases where I'm like, man, this could have been more beautiful. He just did a cool spread page. Because sometimes I'm like, man, I think Gary Frank, if it wasn't laid out to just the original Watchmen paneling, what he could have done with some of the scenes in that book. But otherwise, very daring pick.
Thank you.
I don't know which Two-Face will vote for, but we'll see.
All right. I need to remind everybody that, once again, this isn't just about what we like, whether it's a great story or not, but it's also about selling, right? Like Evergreen. Also,
According to you, nobody.
Shut
That's,
up.
oh, that's
Shut
the
up,
Omar
Peter.
rules.
Peter. All right. Oh, hey, what a coincidence. My turn. The best-selling books of all time: Batman, Nightfall, Death and Return of Superman, and Final Crisis.
Yeah,
Hey,
no one wants to read these stories.
You know what? I'm going to defend.
Go ahead, Dom. Go ahead.
I'm going to defend Omar. Thank you for putting Final Crisis on this. I was considering switching out Infinite for Final because, by golly, I so agree with you on the case of every single time you pick up this book, you learn something new that Grant Morrison throws in there that you're like, wait, what? How did they put that in? Honestly, the scene that also gets me when the real return of my mind when Barry Allen comes back isn't in Rebirth. It's in Final Crisis, and it's so well done. It's so emotionally impactful. And this is, I think, honestly, the template for what a New God story should be. And what a true, if you want to see, okay, like, we know that Scott Snyder did Dark Knight's Death Metal and the whole, this is the anti-crisis for all anti-crises. I do think this is the anti-crisis for all the crises out there. And in that case, I will definitely vote for this on my final. So there you go, Omar. It's got me on my final.
Thank you. It's where all the crises kind of lead to, right? It's everything. It's the bad guys winning. Like, there is no hope for the good guys. One of the Holy Trinity gets killed off. Batman's dead. Superman is trying to
Spoiler.
Superman. We talked about spoilers earlier on that this Evergreen stream always has to talk about spoilers because we have to talk about the importance of these books. And I think this is one of the books that, what Peter said, like, you definitely get your money's worth because it's a book that requires read through over and over again. I chose two of the books that are fun, that are kind of like your summer blockbusters, your Michael Bay type of stories.
And against the rules.
I went with David. I did not pay Dom any. Well, not for this. No, not for
other stuff.
Can I jump in? So, first of all,
the boss.
Final Crisis. I have been reading this book for 20 years, off and on, and I don't know what the fuck Sean is doing, or I'm sorry, I don't understand what they were trying to say with this book. Somebody needs to educate me because this shit makes no sense. Now,
I'm sure there's a 15-year-old kid explaining.
But John's gonna vote for it because why not?
What Final Crisis is.
I did that when I was 19, Omar.
Explaining it, actually, come to think about it.
On the basis of that alone, I have to say I cannot vote for Final Crisis. But even though Death and Return of Superman was illegal according to the rules that I understood, if it were legal,
I don't read too good. I didn't read the rules.
It's your show. But if it were legal, right, I would say that this absolutely belongs to be printed in perpetuity. There's no doubt about it. It's a definitive Superman story.
It is.
That should always be readable. Nightfall, I can't co-sign that on.
You're not a fan of Kelly Jo. You're not a fan of top-selling books.
I am a big fan of top-selling books.
Poorly conceived plot, poorly thought out. Alfred's a neurosurgeon working
There
in
are TikToks and Final Crisis.
a filthy bat cave. All of a
It's
sudden.
true. Uncanny Suit. Speak to him. Talk to him.
They don't make sense.
This is the worst book ever written.
Which
I hate Nightfall.
Wow.
I hate Nightfall, and this isn't even supposed to be on the list according to your rules.
I love changing rules on spot. Yes.
I hate this book. I hate this.
Why do you hate Nightfall so much?
I just said it. It makes no sense whatsoever. Bane sends out every villain on the planet to weaken him, so he gets Batman at his weakest. Wow,
Yes.
you're a pretty tough guy, Bane. Now you can break his back. And then, hey, all of a sudden, Alfred's a neurosurgeon that does very delicate surgery.
You don't think he's studying?
Hey, I'm talking.
All
and
right.
then all of a sudden, the Batcave is a sterile environment for this incredibly difficult neurosurgery. How do you figure this book is nonsense? Okay, it's not the worst book ever written, but it's a terrible Batman book. You're right, John.
Would you pour root beer on this?
I would not even own this book. I have never owned this book.
You've never owned Batman Nightfall? Are you
I read it in floppies and was thoroughly.
I think it's time for a reread, Jess.
Okay, go ahead and reread it.
No,
I'm with you.
Not only does the pick of Nightfall totally violate the rules of engagement that we all agreed to by being on the stream, but I don't know that just one volume of it is especially satisfying. And
all you need is Nightfall, baby. That's it.
And without the volume 2, I just don't know if it's satisfying.
Nobody wants volume 2. That's got Night Quest. That's boring, man. Batman gets his back broken in this. And then you got this new dude with blonde hair that looks like Booster Gold, Maddie. Jean-Paul Vallée taking over the role of Batman. That's all you need.
Jean-Paul, and also I just don't.
Finally wins over Batman. Takes down the millionaire.
That if we were going to put all Batman events that have like one random tie-in from a Justice League book in them on the table, there are so many better Batman events than Nightfall. Like, not only am I judging this pick because I can't believe you broke the rules for Nightfall, but I'm also judging this pick because I can't believe you broke the rules for Nightfall.
What else was I going to pick?
Nightfall is never going to be on one of these evergreen lists, man. Never will be.
I'm trying to make it happen.
How is Nightfall not a top seller over? I mean, I love it's not my favorite event. I love No Man's Land more than this.
You should have picked that then.
Yeah.
No, because No Man's Land would be really a tough sell when it comes to 3 volumes.
That would be the tough sell. The what? That's just 3 volumes.
I'd have voted for it over Nightfall.
I would have voted that No Man's Land over Nightfall 10 out of 10 times.
Right, guys, but we need these books to sell. Nightfall, like everybody loves a broken hero.
And everybody loves a broken city.
Also, the title No Man's Fall was not expressly in the list of do not pick these things.
Shut up, Lars. We've been over that.
Well, I'll just say on the first 2 books here, because they're expressly said that they shouldn't be here. How do I feel about it? I feel like that time that I was shivved in the back in the prison.
God, here we go with Lars.
Well, yeah, and I
you've been shivved in the back. Did you go to prison?
No,
and I didn't know about this.
I totally made that up. But Nightfall. I always feel like Nightfall is just better in conceptualization than implementation.
Okay, guys, I'm not fighting for the story that I love. I'm fighting for the story that sells.
I don't see why we're dealing with like the cells thing. Because to me, Evergreen is like, hey, we have a group of like people who read a bunch of comics. We're going to tell you which one should be Evergreen.
These are all books.
Not which ones are selling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I do agree with you that yes, the popularity of the book should
Nightfall
matter.
and Death of Superman got DC out of their bankruptcy. I may have made that up right now.
I love Maddie's pick there.
No, I can sort of understand the argument that Flashpoint, for example, is a very popular book. People are going to want to buy it, but unfortunately, that sinks to a level that if I gave it to someone, I would worry about violating the Geneva Convention. So
all you have to say is, with all due respect, you can violate whatever the hell you want.
Well, that's very kind of you. No, I don't know.
You might get
and Final Crisis is a tough one because, as you say, or as was said, it is interesting. It is Grant Morrison. Can anybody explain it properly?
Yeah, a 14-year-old kid on TikTok. I just told you that.
Well,
John's right.
For the next 5 days until they.
Although you have convinced me that I should reread Final Crisis.
You should reread Final Crisis.
Yeah.
Oh, it's even rougher on the second read. It's like
no,
it's not the dog that bit you.
No,
but it's actually.
You've only read it twice. I'm so ashamed.
We are
Maybe
we are
it's
all
time to admit-
content creators. Somebody make the video. If you understand,
I'll do it.
Look,
I'll do it.
It's on the channel.
Dom's accepted the challenge.
Let's get it.
Done.
Let's do it. I'm gonna make a 1.5 hour video for Final Crisis that'll come out in June 2025. Check out my channel at Domovax.
Bam.
It's on TikTok.
I want a video where Dom is like, we have like classroom, like Dom's explaining it, and then Sean and I are like trying to like take notes. Like, okay.
Yes.
And then,
I'll invite you guys. Let's do it. Let's film it.
Yeah, we'll have a reaction video.
I hate to cut the fun off really quick, but my buddy Chris does have to leave, so I just want to give him a little spotlight here. Chris,
Sorry,
go
y'all.
ahead and give me praises for all three of my choices, and then
I applaud you for breaking the rules of your own show.
it's what I
so,
do, baby. It's what I do. All right.
But thank you all. Sorry, I've got to prep for my show, Marvel Alliance. So whenever you're done watching this, go to Geek First Podcast YouTube channel, Marvel Alliance. You can search it on any kind of podcast feed if you just do audio, but go check it out. We are breaking down the new Daredevil Born Again trailer tonight, looking at some news, and always doing our Fact or Fictions and Comic Book Club. So thank you, Omar. Thank you, panel. Love you all, and good luck for the big fight.
Love you, Chris.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Chris.
Yeah.
You better have voted for my damn picks.
And his
Chris.
votes have been secured. They are.
They
They
have.
are,
They are
in the secret
Question:
ballot.
can I change them since he's
No.
not here?
Apparently you
You
changed the
already
rules. You can
cheated
change them
once. He cheated.
See
He's
y'all
got
out.
to cheat twice now.
Guys, I'm telling you, you can't trust him. He cheats at board
Okay,
games and
what are
card
you, my
games and
ex-wife?
this.
Maddie with the T.
I'm just
she's
saying.
ratting me out for other things, though. All right. So
So I think I really like Maddie's conception of what this show is. That it's not. It's like we're a bunch of chefs, and you're not just asking us which of the terrible potato chips would you eat, or which of the terrible cheeses or whatever you eat, but what would you actually recommend, right? As the content creators, as the people of taste. And so I just don't feel beholden to pick things that are already popular that sell well at all. I feel personally, but that's my criteria. And we always say at the beginning of the show, everybody's got their own criteria. I'm just saying for me, I align with what Maddie said. Final Crisis, I will say it really helps if you read Super Gods, Grant Morrison's book about stories and comics and the way they structure stories. It will help you understand. I think Final Crisis is one of those books that's a comic about comics and a story about storytelling. I think actually the core 7 issues of Final Crisis interspersed with their Batman issues is really, really enjoyable. I do not so much like the all of Final Crisis. So this is going to be a hard one, kind of game time decision in voting for me, because I actually do really like Final Crisis and a few of the kind of core books that it requires, but I just really hate so many of the tie-ins, and it's hard for me to separate that. Death and Return of Superman is one of my favorite stories of all time. I just have to decide if I'm going to reward Omar for breaking the rules.
it's so good.
Yeah.
You're my
Rule
friend.
breakers should not be rewarded.
Tit for
None
tat.
are-
I agree with Jess. I do agree with Jess.
I Zero
I'm voting
Hour
for
when
none
everybody
of them.
was sitting on it, and I was like, Peter loves 0 Hour, and I like 0 Hour. Everybody should vote for it. So it's what friends, right? Which is why you're voting for all 3 of mine.
I'm
And
just hearing a buzzing coming
I
from you right
appreciate
now.
I've never heard Jess go off on a story like that about Nightfall in so long. Like, I didn't know you hated it that much.
Yes, you did.
It is like one of the longest ongoing jokes on Jess's channel. Do you not watch his channel?
Is it like your worst nightmare? Like this Latino coming to this rich dude?
You have to turn it racist. Make it a Latino. No, okay, Peter, you recommend it.
Oh my god!
Don't play that card. That's ridiculous.
It's all I've got.
When we did our first Evergreen, Peter put up all 3 Nightfalls as a joke to jam me up. That was last year sometime.
Holy crap!
He
2
also
years ago.
Maybe something's wrong with me.
Oh yeah, you agree
Wow.
with Michael Cleveland?
Yeah.
Problem. Banger.
That's a sign.
Yeah.
Jess, you also said the same things during the Batman Evergreen stream, so I don't know why Omar can't remember.
I was drinking.
You're drinking now.
Have you been drinking continuously since you first read Nightfall?
I'm all,
Shalom cannot believe that nobody put Underworld Unleashed.
These losers did not pick all of the cool mid-late 90s stuff because they love their 2000s
Final
John
Crisis.
See, I haven't
More
read
I
it.
grew up with, man.
Where's
I
Warren? Thank you, Jack.
Warren. Oh
Omar
my
should-
god.
I did enjoy Underworld Unleashed. I think the weird thing there is I'm not sure it does have a lot of sticking power.
No. Stay
Yeah.
on topic, Lars. What do you think about my awesome choices?
And the fact that a Latino picked them, apparently.
Yeah. Are you also afraid of a Latino breaking a rich white guy's back? What's
Oh,
the problem?
God.
Omar,
How
no.
racist are you, Lars? Let's find out.
Yeah.
Ah!
What's up, Lars?
Oh my gosh.
I will have to re-examine my feelings about these picks. Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Anybody else? Sean? No, actually, Sean, I ain't heard from you, my dude.
Yeah,
No, you said he didn't like Final Crisis.
No.
he and I agreed on Final
what
Crisis.
about Nightfall and Death and Return of Superman?
Yeah, so I said earlier, Death and Return, I think, belongs in the Evergreen category 100%. It's a definitive DC comic story, but Nightfall, I just can't get behind.
You can't get behind Nightfall, really?
I can't
You don't like Nightfall
because I feel like if we're putting a Batman book on this list, I would rather vote for Death of the Family.
Same.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Well, it fits the category. more.
No, guys, Death of the Family. No.
If we're gonna break the rules.
So does
Yeah,
Nightfall.
Maddie
Okay.
didn't break the rules.
It's
Well,
got that many
I would not
crossovers.
choose Nightfall, but if we're gonna break the rules in your list, the only thing I would possibly break the rules for as like a definitive event that is referred to and referenced would be Death and Return of Superman. That's the only thing I would break
Yes.
the rules for on
Yeah.
this list.
Yeah,
Even
I
though
can
it
back
does
that.
not fit. I could see if it were argued correctly, potentially working, but it's still breaking the rules.
I-
I found
I-
things I haven't read. So
Wait, okay.
I-
What is it about Nightfall that doesn't fit into the rules? Because like there are some Justice League Task Force issues.
yeah, but I just don't. To me, it's not like a okay. Let's look at like what has like an effect, right? Of like DC. To me, that's not.
Well,
Like,
it didn't have an effect in the DC universe because like everybody gets involved. The Justice League gets involved.
An event book was sort of defined as a sort of crossover event. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not sure it said that expressly,
Yeah.
but that's what all of them amount to,
Yeah.
pretty much.
I just didn't
And-
like it. Maybe that's why.
Well,
There it
and that's okay not to like something, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's plenty of books on these lists that I don't like.
I mean, it's cool. It was a cool story, but I don't like it as much as like the other events.
obvious.
I agree with everything you said, Omar, about these books. Like Final Crisis, I think should be on the list. It is like that 1, 2, 3 punch of Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, then Final Crisis. And I do also agree that Batman Nightfall and Death and Return of Superman would sell beautifully. I mean, I think they keep getting reprinted in different formats for a reason, and everyone would buy them up. So if we look at it in that regard, and then I also think they perform really well as stories because in both of them you get to see massive, unbeatable, godlike heroes get beat. But since both of them break the rules, I will
What
be voting
rules?
against them for sure.
Peter lined up that everybody read but
We
me.
have to follow. There has to be some rules.
Death and Return of Superman was named like literally in the rules that
That's
it could
because
not be
Peter
chosen.
couldn't think of a better example. That's
Well,
on him.
And then he
I'm
put.
just saying.
Go ahead, Dom. What was it?
Oh no
Then
no
you
no
put-
no no
No, go ahead.
no.
Okay.
It's okay.
Well, Tyler, you almost had me voting for Identity Crisis, and then at the very end, you
No, you wouldn't. You're a
That's
liar.
why. You come out against him just a little bit, and he's all.
I was
support someone who's
complimenting how
cold.
brave and how big a
I-
ball you had.
I knew using that. I didn't have your vote right away. I knew that.
I didn't mean to laugh. That was just a natural reaction.
Oh,
Okay. Let's start the voting then. Or does anybody else have anything awesome to say about my votes?
I don't know.
I was the first one to defend you, Omar.
Thank you, Dom. I will remember you always.
on the payroll.
You know,
I like the comment that was like, "Dom out here defending dad."
Hey,
daddy,
stop
or
it.
you two, daddy. That was cute.
it's not cute. All right, let's go back. Peter, is it time to start voting then?
It is, my friend.
All right, let's start voting. We're going back to OmniDog's votes.
Okay,
all
Crisis on Infinite Earths, which many people have, so you'll be voting for across all of everybody picking it. OmniDog clearly picked it. Maddie?
Yes.
Lars also picked it. Chris, we have secret votes recorded. I will vote yes because
tell us what he said. What do you
no. We'd never do that when people leave the stream. We give some, let there be some drama.
I feel like you're changing a lot of the rules on me on the spot.
Sounds familiar.
I am voting for Crisis on Infinite Earths
Hypocrisy.
specifically due to Sean's impassioned monologue. Dom already picked it.
Dom.
Tyler,
Yes.
Sean
Yes.
picked it. Omar.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, well, there we go. We have our first universal pick of the evening.
Probably the only one too.
Oh, the
maybe the
feeling what
only
Chris
one.
chose to-
Okay, next
Identity
we have
crisis will be universal.
Universal something.
Yeah.
So next we have Infinite Crisis, which OmniDog clearly has picked, and so has Maddie. Lars.
No, thank you.
God,
Uh,
please.
I'm a yes. I think this is a fun crisis. Dom picked it. Tyler picked it. Sean
Yes.
and Omar.
Absolutely, yes. Lars could go to hell.
God.
Wait, he hasn't voted for mine yet. Never mind. Okay.
We're just throwing shots for no reason. I thought we were friends.
I'm so sorry. It's just
No one's friendly
Well,
in the arena.
I'm certainly glad you're not taking this personally.
I'm not taking
that's
I'll
good.
kill you.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about 52. Maddie.
Yes.
Lars also picked it. I'm a yes. I think it's a genius pick. Dom.
No.
Woo. Spicy Dom. Tyler.
I'm gonna say yes.
Sean.
I have to say no.
Wow. Omar.
I'm gonna go with yes, man. That's a good pick.
I love 52, just not
Yeah,
as
great.
not this
It's a
one.
good story, and I think it fits the criteria like Nightfall and Death and Return of Superman. Great choice.
Okay. Next we have the picks of
The Wonder Maddie, I think.
Wonder Maddie.
Yes, Wonder Maddie. So Batman Death of the Family. OmniDog.
Yeah.
Ooh. Lars.
No.
I am also a no. Dom.
Yes.
Tyler.
I'm gonna go with the no.
Sean.
Yes.
And Omar.
That's. I mean, I'm gonna go with no. I'm sorry.
Ooh, okay.
Split vote.
DC Rebirth, which, as a reminder, is not the actual DC Rebirth omnibus. It's more like the road to Rebirth.
Yeah.
OmniDog.
Yes.
Lars.
I think yes. Yeah.
I'm a yes. I'm into it. Dom.
No.
Tyler.
No.
Sean.
No.
Such early optimism. And then Omar.
Yeah. What? Really? You guys are no? This
I
is
love
young
this
man type of.
We only have
Don't-
8 choices. We
Yeah.
have
Well,
to
no.
pick
You
and
can
choose.
vote for as many as you want to vote for. The
Yeah.
the eight
He
comes
tells
out in
you
the
that.
Yeah.
He tells you that. Then he's.
I
takes it
knew
all.
that already in my defense.
Yeah. Does anybody feel the need to change a vote they've made already,
No.
knowing you can vote for more than 8?
Then you can
Yeah.
change
No.
mine.
Really?
You can,
On this
yeah,
one?
Yeah, you can change mine to yeah.
Okay. Well, that might matter. Next, let's move on to the next slide because we've already got
Okay.
Infinite Crisis.
Next slide is Lars. We
So
need to
the
vote
only
for
one we've
Black
got to do
Knight.
here is Blackest Night, I believe.
Mhm.
Correct. Because
All right. So OmniDog,
Yes.
Maddie.
Yes.
It's nothing personal. It just doesn't work for me. No.
Oh, sure.
Tyler,
Hell yeah.
Sean,
Yes.
and Omar.
Yes.
All
Wait.
right. Glad to be the individual curmudgeon on the
I like
stream
how
about
when it
that
gets
one.
to Omar, he looks really offended every
Yeah.
time. Yes. How would you ask me that?
Like,
All
no
right. Next
shit.
one.
I
Next
thought I
slide.
knew you, Peter.
I thought you knew me too. Okay, Our Worlds at War, one of the most interesting picks. Remember, Chris is not here to hear what you're saying about him. OmniDog.
Yes.
Maddie.
I haven't read it. Can I abstain from that?
No, we only take yeses or nos, my friend.
No.
Okay,
That's
Lars.
okay. That's okay. That's okay.
I mean, it is good, but no.
I'm a yes. I think it was a great pick. Dom.
Absolutely not.
Ooh, Tyler.
Yes.
Ooh, Sean.
Hard no.
And Omar.
Look, if I got to choose between Our Worlds at War, Death, and Return of Superman, I mean, that's my choice. I'm gonna go no.
Okay, this is our first instance of Flashpoint. OmniDog.
Yes.
Maddie.
Yes.
Lars.
Oh no.
Never in a million years for me. Dom.
Oh.
You know what? Even with what I said, I'm gonna say no.
What? I love it. Chaos. Let chaos reign. Sean.
Definitely.
Okay, and Omar.
Absolutely, based on the movie alone, yes.
Oh my God. Shut up.
Oh my God.
All right, we've already
You
got
had
Blackest
too much
Night.
to drink.
You will not hurt my feelings. I knew it was an uphill battle, but I want to
love
hear
it.
some honest opinions here.
It's good. It's the only diverse one of all the ones we've had.
Yeah.
That's why I love it.
Okay. OmniDog.
Diverse. Look at all
Yeah,
the white.
I love
Dom
your
just
pick.
called my list the DEI list. OmniDog.
Oh God. Don't let the other side hear that. They're gonna cling on to that one.
Oh dear.
Oh man.
OmniDog on Legends.
I love your differing choices here, and I'm still going to say no.
Okay, Maddie on Legends.
No, because I haven't read it.
Lars on Legends.
Yes.
Dom.
No.
Tyler.
No.
Sean.
No.
And Omar.
Dude, Peter, I love you. I'm gonna go yes.
Aw, look at that.
Yes.
Okay. War of the Gods by the legendary George Perez. OmniDog.
No.
Maddie.
I'm legally required to say yes, even though I haven't read it.
What?
Lars.
Be on here saying no to Wonder Maddie.
I think yes.
Dom.
No.
Tyler.
Yes.
Sean.
No.
And Omar.
How many women-led superhero omnis we got on this Evergreen already?
There's not many female-led DC events, unfortunately.
No.
I mean,
Okay.
Dark Knight's Death Metal could have been on here if someone chose
Yeah,
it.
they're not
Okay.
female-led or like written. Most of the time, not written by women either. Events.
Really?
True.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
looking through the
true.
list,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go no then.
Oh my lord. Stars. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Omar.
I got you. I got you. You thought I
That
was gonna
stab
win.
in the back was so hard I felt it in the front.
Love
Okay.
it. Love it.
0 hour. OmniDog.
Fuck no.
Wow.
Maddie.
no.
Lars.
Well, I don't say with acid, but no.
Dom.
Peter, this is an absolute yes for me.
Thank you, my friend. Well, you'll see you an old reader, new reader. Tyler.
Yes.
Sean.
Sorry, Peter, but no.
And Omar.
Hell yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely
Hypertime.
right.
No one's saying no to Hypertime and Jerry Ordway art.
Dude, come on.
I
now.
loved.
And
Can we
against-
talk about somebody who does not get enough recognition as one of the greatest all-time comic book
Oh,
artists?
no kidding.
Jerry Ordway. Like,
I agree.
even today, he's one of the best still. All right.
Constantly great. Yeah.
Don Vex's choices. I think
We have already talked about all three of these choices for voting. Congratulations.
Good job, Don.
Okay. On to Illuminerdy. Oh boy. Okay. Without
Come on.
identity crisis, OmniDog.
Oh dear. No.
Maddie.
No, in public and in private.
I love that. I love that.
Lars.
I would rather rip out my giblets. No.
I would rather taste Lars's giblets.
We'll
Dom.
properly cook them first, okay? It's all right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Hell to the no. Oh.
Okay, Sean.
No in public, yes in private.
How do I record that vote?
Gross.
I'm just kidding. I'm a no.
And Omar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it sells. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. And
There we go.
we've got those other two, so now we're going to move on to Sean, who has 2 unique picks, one of which is Forever Evil, OmniDog.
No.
Maddie.
Yes.
Lars.
I think none.
I think no.
I'm really torn on this one. I'm going to say no. Dom.
Absolutely not.
Tyler.
Nope.
And Omar.
Remember me, Sean. Yes.
Ooh.
I will.
All right,
I
and then
see what this is.
possibly the most controversial of all of our picks today, which is crazy to say when Identity Crisis was one of the picks, Doomsday Clock. OmniDog.
100% yes.
Maddie.
No, but I'll read it after this.
Yes.
Lars.
Yeah. Actually, yes.
I may have talked myself into it. Yes. Dom.
I've read the story 10 times, and I will say no to 11 times to this.
I'm sorry. So that is a yes or a no, Dom.
That's a no. No.
That's a no. Okay.
You're not reading.
You're wearing a shirt of it, Dom.
I know I am.
Wow.
Walking oxymoron.
I thought I had Dom's vote.
You contain multiverses of multitudes, Dom. Tyler.
That's what DC stands
Absolutely.
for.
And Omar.
For what are we voting on?
Doomsday Clock, my friend.
I'm sorry. Did I vote for Forever Evil? Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Doomsday Clock. Yeah.
And now, speaking of controversial choices, we come to Nightfall.
We already talked about Identity
We didn't
Crisis.
vote.
Hey, breaking news. Absolute Hush just popped up on PRH for a reprint in
well,
October,
that-
by the way.
That is a great relief.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Somebody
Wow.
just texted me.
Yep,
Right.
October 7th,
And you know what?
2025.
There would be no Absolute Hush without Batman Nightfall, but I digress.
And with that in mind, OmniDog.
On the level of poorly written, no. On the level of against the rules, no.
Maddie.
No.
Lars.
Chuck
No.
Dixon, Doug Bench, Alan Grant, Graham Nolan, Jim Aparo, Kelly Jones.
These are the artists. I want a
Lars.
story.
No.
I'm a no.
Are
Dom.
you guys serious?
Lars, if you got any more of those giblets, I'll take some. They're leftovers.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Tyler.
I'll
In
have a
protest,
nice
no.
buffet, Yeah.
And
Get the
Sean.
fucking no. What?
I'm a yes on all the creators that Omar listed, but I'm a no on this book being on this list.
That is our first universal no of the
No,
stream.
I voted yes. You can go to hell, Peter. I voted yes. You're a universal no.
I'm so glad
Now
he's
we
telling someone to
come-
go to hell who's not me.
To a trickier choice, Superman Death and Return, OmniDog.
Even though this violates the rules, I think this should be evergreen. So yes.
Maddie.
I don't know why you had to do this to me. You know?
Yeah.
It's a little rude.
I think
It
so
did
too.
break the rules.
Booster
Right.
Gold shows up in this.
My heart wants to say yes, but I gotta say no.
What?
Ooh.
Maddie?
I'm
Rough.
sorry.
Louise Simonson is the only female creator we have on this goddamn list.
It broke the rules.
Well, no, Jill. No. Jill Thompson was on War of the Gods.
That's
Sure.
true.
Lars.
You all still
No.
voted no for that.
I felt boxed in by a lack of good choices, and the math on this would have greatly changed if things like
I
Death and
know.
Return of Superman would have been allowed, but they weren't. So no.
They were what?
Yeah,
I-
should change my vote.
Even though I wrote the rules,
Peter.
I
Lars and I
It-
are standing with you right
it
now.
affects
and
the
you-
whole DC universe, though they all
does.
show up. I
No
have-
Identity Crisis. I'm sorry, no Infinite
but-
Crisis.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna vote yes. Dom.
No, I already defended Dad on one thing. I don't need to defend him on another. No.
Tell me that again. That's really creepy.
Tyler.
That's not my words.
I would have picked this, but no in protest again.
Ooh.
I picked
Tyler's
Identity
got a
Crisis, you
vendetta
son
against
of a
Omar's
bitch.
pick.
What? Are you serious?
I would have
Sean.
chose both of these.
I'm all in. Yes,
Ooh.
Thank you,
He's
Sean.
all into
He's
all in.
in.
Let's go.
you got it.
And our
Sean.
final vote, and this is another
Ooh.
challenging one.
Yes, it
Final
is.
crisis for OmniDog.
My final crisis. I don't
Last one you ever
know.
need
It's
to read.
ponderous. It's a ponderously pondering book. No.
Maddie,
No.
Lars.
Oh God. I gotta pick one or the other. Yes, I'll go yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Lars.
Ooh.
Thank you, Lars.
Yeah.
I think in a world where this list is going to be dominated by crisis books, we need this also on the list. So I'm yes.
Absolutely, we do. If 0 Hours making it, so is Final Crisis.
0 Hours not.
We don't know that yet.
Dom,
This is 100,000,010 yeses to the sun that Grant Morrison writes about.
Tyler,
I agree with Peter. It's a yes.
and Sean.
I have a crisis every time I read this book. No.
So it's
All right.
smart. It's smart.
Please talk amongst yourselves and entertain our esteemed guest while I tabulate the results.
Data.
All right. I just want to remind everybody to smash that like button, please. These are a blast to put together. It's never easy for Peter to do this on the spot, and he's mapping books as he's doing this, which is just insanity. It's just crazy how he does it. And he's keeping up with the chat. I don't even.
And this is a tough show, you guys. This is breaking friendships, our trust in
True.
people in general.
Yeah.
Usually savage even by our standards.
Hey,
Like,
comic opinions are comic opinions. I'm just here to
Yeah.
have fun and see what y'all are thinking about when you talk about these types of books. So that's why I love.
It is
watching
interesting to see what people love and what they're so offended by. And I had no idea that people like Lars and Peter were Snyder bros. Like that's really
Bros.
Like,
You thought the
crazy.
misinformation in this panel tonight.
It's true. It's
Out of
true.
hand.
Right.
and Maddie
It is
is
absolutely
hashtag
right.
white dudes.
These are
How
alternate facts.
dare you do that to me?
Like,
Very definition of alternate facts.
When really, I think I have a more diverse dating history than you do, Omar. So let's be real.
Oh,
Oh,
damn.
wait a
Where are the
second.
receipts? Where are the
Wait a
receipts?
second now. Is this what we're gonna do?
I'm just saying. Coming out.
What year you want to go back to? 1992? Let's go back to 1992, baby.
I was one. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow, that's inappropriate, Omar.
1992. She was one. I forgot.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I wasn't alive in 1992.
Shut
I
up,
know.
Dom. You're not helping.
You know, until Dom came on, I was always like the youngest person in the group. So this is refreshing.
Yeah, that makes you feel old when Dom's like, I wasn't even alive when half of these books were written.
And I've read all of the books that were on the panel, so who would have known?
I'm very impressed. I
Right?
have a lot, I have a lot of reading to catch up.
Always can be trusted to do the homework.
Hey, Peter,
Dom
don't talk.
always
What are you
knows.
doing? You're supposed to be working. Don't talk.
I'm already done, baby. I'm just
Oh,
putting
okay,
them.
okay.
I'm just
All right.
making sure they're all visible on the same slide.
The hair
All
is
right.
together. The Excel sheet is excelling. Let's go.
That's
All
right.
right, here we go.
Excelsior.
Vote, which we did.
So I will
Um,
say there is a extremely clear top 8. There are no ties.
What? Really?
Very nice.
It's just pure top 8, and then we'd have to tie break for 9. So it makes perfect sense that we're doing a top 8. Let me just get this one image a little more centered. Oh,
Wait.
it's fighting me.
What are we tie breaking for?
Nothing. We have a top 8. There's no tie break.
I'm so proud.
I'm
of
saying
us.
if it was 10, it would have been messy, but it's not 10. It's
Wow.
8.
Damn, Maddie, your
This is
reverse
a
made it in
good-
there.
Yay. As long as one of mine makes it, I'm fine. This is a good
Did
list.
did my vote put it
Oh
on
my
the
gosh,
eight?
reload again. How dare you show my mess like that?
My
I feel like
God.
you just showed me with my hair up.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I was just seeing if any of yours made it, Peter. That's
Oh
all.
my gosh. That'll never be forgiven. All the horrible things you've said about me never aren't the same as showing the slide while I'm still laying it out.
Why is it showing that? I'm showing.
Now
this-
that looked right.
Well, it's supposed to be in slideshow mode. There we
Oh.
go. Okay. Now let's try.
We will
this.
obviously have a chat vote because there's some drama. It's yet to
Oh,
address.
some drama?
Sweat. Thank you.
Maddie cook. Did she really cook?
I
She
don't-
did. That pick especially was great.
All right. So the final 8 choices voted by the panel. I need to know Chris's choices. How did he vote for mine? Did he
So Chris was extremely choosy, and he only, of books other than his own, he only went yes on Infinite Crisis and Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Really?
Wow, what a picky bitch he was. God, really? Are you serious?
Understandable. Understandable.
These are good choices. What did he pick? He brought our worlds at war, and I said yes. I take back everything nice I said about Chris.
That's what happens when you leave early.
So what is the book that people have to vote on?
Dark Knight's Metal should be on the chat vote.
Where did that's not any of our list.
I think we should have them vote from one of the things that we didn't include, and I think we should have them vote for one of the things that they brought up in the chat a lot.
Hey, James, shout out to you, my friend. I win again.
OmniDog here, 3 of 3. James.
That's true.
If I hadn't had Forever Evil swapped in, I'd be 3 of 3 too.
Okay, good job. You guys and Lars watch the same TikTok.
Well, no, I still haven't had a book where nobody has voted it out. So that in by turn makes my turnout 100% of all the
Dom,
Evergreens.
it is well established fact that Dom is the all-time champion of the Evergreen stream.
Is there a prize that we're giving out at the end? I didn't know.
No, it just feels nice to be to know that people agree with me. 98% of the time.
Okay, Dom. That's
your boss.
That's great. You get a participant ribbon.
Thank you.
Wait, I want one.
Make your mint condition participant ribbons. And
That was such a good joke, Maddie.
Dom gets a no prize.
All right, so chat, it's time to go off. What books do you feel like we criminally skipped that we absolutely need to vote on? There was a lot of Dark Knight's Metal. There was a lot of Underworld Unleashed.
The 0 hour.
No.
See, we JLA Avengers is tricky because it's a Marvel property, and just like the DC Aliens and Predator.
Oh, it says absolute. Sorry, it shouldn't say absolute, but we'll fix that when we reload it.
And
The
I
one
will
Go ahead.
put in the... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the one I kind of regret not picking was Seven Soldiers of Victory.
I looked at that
Bill
myself.
Lovitz is speaking the Lord. Bill, don't do this.
That's
to
right,
Lars.
Bill. You know what's up.
Thank you, Harvey. Nightfall.
Oh.
How dare you, people? Invasion.
Invasion's a good pick.
Identity
What?
Crisis. Metal.
There we go.
Amazon's Attack. Rock of Ages.
Hey.
Sinestro Core War.
That's a good choice.
Hush. Hush. It isn't even out yet. I love it. Thank you, Billy.
Aria.
Nightfall.
If Invasion made this list, I'd have to leave the show. I would
Ah!
have to leave the show.
Well, I think even Keith Giffen gave an interview, said when they were collecting the graphic novel, and said they must really be desperate if they're collecting that book. Yeah.
I did. It's another vote. So there's 3 votes for Nightfall and 2 votes for Identity Crisis, is what I'm seeing, Peter.
Well,
Anything
Nightfall would only be eligible if any of us had voted for it to be like a chat tie break. But since
Oh,
we
so
so roundly rejected it,
You're not
that
for
one
the,
can't.
you're
come
not for
back.
the people then? We don't
Yeah.
represent the people. Okay. Got you. Batman Year 2. God bless you, Joe. I love that answer. DC.
Some people said DC 1 million earlier
I
in the
saw a
stream.
lot of those.
Heroes in Crisis.
Don't do that to me.
Do it. Let's do a blast. Talk. Speak up.
Really? On a real note, it should be Metal. 0 hour.
I think it's-
Brightest Day, Identity Crisis, and Dad Night.
That was one of the things I'm very surprised did not, like, no one brought it up.
Dark Knight Star
0 hour will be on the chat tie break poll because that was one of the next.
I
four.
want to read Dad Night. That sounds like an awesome book.
Dad Night.
I've seen a couple of a couple people in the chat were like, "Where's Kingdom Come?"
Well, Kingdom
That
Come
wasn't
really
an
isn't an
event.
event.
It's not an
though.
event, though.
It's an Elseworld.
Multiversity. Go.
Oh, here we
Interesting.
go. There's 4
Oh boy.
votes for Nightfall. 4 votes for Nightfall, everybody. I think we should let the people speak, Peter. But if you're against people's freedom of speech, then
Well, you know what? Why don't we start out with a poll of the 4 that just didn't quite make it from our own lists and have the chat pick one of those?
Okay.
Those 4 were Superman Death and Return.
give me 1 second.
Sure.
What book do you want DC to make evergreen? All right. What are they?
The first one is Death and Return of
I
Superman.
already put it in the list.
The second one is Our
Wait,
Worlds
are you
at War.
creating the poll? Oh, wait.
Go out and vote. The four that Peter has chosen.
Wait.
Dom is still on top of it. Omar's still talking.
Come on, man. You got to be faster at this.
I'm not
Dom, there were four,
keyboard
not
going
three.
like
Did you get all
that.
four?
Okay.
Go out and vote. We will close the vote whenever Omar decides to close the vote, and we will.
I didn't even know the vote was on. Okay.
So much violence.
I mean, there's a lot of
Okay.
violence when it comes to
I
DC
blame
events, so I think
Peter
it's
for all
appropriate.
this.
So now let's go back to trying to figure out what the four the chat wants us to add are. So I think it's clearly Underworld, Unleashed, and Metal. They got mentioned the most.
Death
Maddie,
Metal,
do you think
Underworld,
people
Unleashed,
said
Christ.
million enough that million should make it?
I think it came up a lot.
It came up.
It came up once. That's okay.
No, it was
Heroes
more
in
than a few
Crisis
times.
came
It was
up.
earlier. They're joking.
What is number 4 then? Invasion? Crisis, Heroes in Crisis?
Nightfall, I think, came up a lot.
I see
Brightest
Warlord
Day?
Saga.
Nightfall did not come up a lot.
Nightfall came up at least 15 times.
You
Nightfall
repeating
came
that
up.
to yourself changes nothing.
Nightfall
Yeah,
came
you
up
heard
so
where it
much
came out.
that RVP Cars goes, okay, was just yelling at the top of his lungs. In all honesty, Sinestro Corps, Death of the Chemical King. How old is Phil Owens? Is he older than Jess? Death and Return and Nightfall seem like character-specific stories. They seem like it, but they're not. Metal Armageddon 2001. Well, thank you, William. God bless you. I knew I liked you. Superman War World Saga. That's 2 votes, right? Cosmic Odyssey. That's the first time I've seen that. That's
That's a good one. I didn't
That's a
even
good
have that on the initial list, I don't
look
think.
at that. Nightfall. People are
Wait,
yelling.
you skipped. You skipped Hush Tua.
Shua, that's what it is.
Astria.
You get 5 points.
Dark Side War, JLA World War III count from the 90s, JLA. I don't know. That's a tough one because it does involve like the entirety of the DC universe and an angel. Armageddon 29. That's not a thing, Aria. Look at that, man. People are just hammering for Nightfall, Peter.
Oh my gosh.
Nightfall still like I'm not even
Oh my
like
god.
picking.
Now
and
we
choosing.
know which all of the accounts are Omar's extra accounts.
Yeah.
I'm not typing. I'm not that fast. You saw how fast I was trying to type.
So wait, are people asking for Dark Knight's Metal or Dark Knight's Death Metal? They're two
It would
different
have to be
events.
metal, right?
I think
Metal?
I'm probably saying metal.
Metal.
Yeah.
Make sure you're voting. I'm going to leave the voting up for another minute. So if you're just now joining, go and vote for which event should be in this. Oh, damn. Dom beat me to that, too. Right. Nightfall, which is part of the Nightfall. Wait, would DC be qualified?
Ooh.
Well, that's just a whole line of books.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count. It's an omnibus, though.
Well, yeah, but it's not.
So?
It was several sequential series in a specific alternate universe. Like I don't know, we could have a bigger.
I
in
like
DC,
this side of
Ooh,
Illuminerdy.
we
We
should
made
have
a
a
lot of
Evergreen
things. Like does
Elseworlds.
DC versus vampires count? Does Kingdom Come count?
No.
You
Yeah.
know,
We have
like
an Evergreen
Elseworld stories.
Elseworld show.
I want to go back to Peter's events here that he wrote. Let's see.
Omar's just trying to start fights. So I'm
There's Nightfall in 19. Oh, what a coincidence! Nightfall is in your list.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
well, that's because this is the list right from my incredibly thorough Crushing Crisis guide
Messed up.
to DC Universe events,
Oh,
which
we
doesn't
could've
only
voted for
include things that
JLA.
would apply to the roles.
I might have voted differently had I known.
Yeah,
Nightfall was
Peter. Yeah, not cool, Peter. Everybody, boo! Crushing Crisis.
Yeah, let's get upset about the slide I was working on while the stream started. Let's get really tweaked.
All right, everybody.
All
put
right.
your pencils down. Dom, can you end the vote?
Almost happened for me. All right, well, that was vote number 1.
All right, Dom. What was the winner? Is Dom still here?
No, Dom stepped away.
How
You're
did
giving
Dom-
instructions to an associate producer who's not even on the stream. Omar.
He started All right, let me see if I can end it. I'm pretty sure I can. All right, I'm ending the poll, everybody. Thank you so much for voting. Ending the poll, and the winner is by a landslide. What shall it be? Hold on a second. I'm trying to catch up with the chat and my gosh. All right. It is The Death and Return of Superman by 48%. 0 Hour came in at 33%. JLA,
Nice.
Our Worlds at War at 10%, and War of the Gods at 6%.
Huh.
Did I need to say that? No, probably not. All right.
All right.
So, Dom, are you still here? No, probably not. Okay, Dom
No.
and then left. It feels like that. So, are you adding that in, Peter?
Yeah, it's already added if you reload.
I am reloading. All right.
Come on, I've been doing this over a year now. There's a system.
Pro.
I love that there's a system. Here we go. Now we need the other chat vote. So I'm not as fast as Dom because he's good at the writing. What other?
I don't know what the other two are going to be because everybody was so divided on what they all said.
Nightfall, I think, was one of them.
There were a fair amount for DC Million. I think DC Million is the third one. I
Yeah.
just don't know.
All right,
the fourth
so
one
what
is.
are they, Peter? Tell me. What are the?
They are Dark Knight's Metal,
All right.
Underworld Unleashed.
Really? Underworld Unleashed?
People were talking about the whole stream.
Yeah.
One
DC
guy.
1 million.
Okay.
And then I think we got to just throw one in there that we didn't mention because people.
Cosmic Odyssey.
Yeah. Okay. A number of people brought that up.
I was just kidding. Let me see. What is the rest of the chat saying? I can't see right now.
I mean, people said Warworld Saga. People said Armageddon 2001. There was a lot of War World. It's really hard to say that. There was
I'll
a
say
lot
that.
of World
I
Saga
love Nightfall. Why can't I add Nightfall again?
because we already
All right, I'm
discarded
putting
You can-
Heroes in
You
Crisis.
can
in.
add it.
Ah, shit.
I
putting-
just, I also have
Heroes
to
in
find
Crisis.
where they all live.
that. Okay, here we go.
All right, everybody, go and vote, please. And don't forget to hit that like button. And I'm going to leave that up for a little while everybody goes and vote,
Oh, this
including
is
the
tricky.
panel. The panel can go and vote. Get on your devices and vote for
Heroes in Crisis is probably the worst event I've read. And I had a listener put up an entire presentation about why this book is excellent.
Go Team Heroes in Crisis.
How could
It's
you?
one of those books that like I desperately want someone to like take a view of the heroes, right? And like it'd be great to have a whole book of like they have like they therapy, like what does it mean to have PTSD and be a superhero? And they're like, hey, that's really cool. What if we ruined it with a mass murder? And I'm like, no, I didn't want that actually. Like, but what if we did it anyways?
And what if the mass murderer was actually a hero you love, Wally West?
Yeah, I think a lot of the
Yeah.
objection would drop away if it had been a different killer.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
if Roy Harper still dies, I'm still upset.
Cry for justice.
Oh,
yes.
no.
I love James Robinson. I voted for 1 million, but it's actually still relevant or important. Sure. In Grant Morrison's DC. Absolutely. Wow. That's no surprise. Nightfall is winning. Who put that up there?
Oh my god.
How did that get up there? Whoops. 9 panels and same pick in all of them. How about an evergreen DC sports storyline? That would be the Nevergreens.
Evergreen.
We have been kicking around doing an evergreen.
Dude, Lars would be so good at that. You and Lars would kill it. You guys hate everything.
I am a confirmed hater.
Yes, you two would bring in so much hate and controversy to things people love and enjoy. I'm
Yes,
here
we're-
for that, though.
We're just joy killers. That's what we do.
Joy killers.
Yeah, yeah.
Superman turns gold and gets Green Lantern ring. in
I
one
prefer Joy Crusher personally.
Oh,
just to
okay,
stay
that's
on
good,
brand.
yeah.
Yeah.
Planet. We were actually Peter and I talked about Millennial, and I think we were the only two that talked about Millennial.
It's so funny. Omar and I back channeling about what events are cool that we could pick is so different than the conversation that happened on the actual stream. Omar and I were talking about Final Night. We were talking about Millennium. What else did we talk about, Omar?
We did talk about the War of the Gods and Legends, and I was like, oh man, I really want to pick Legends or Millennium or I think Final Crisis. I don't think anyone.
Did you talk about Day of Judgment?
Yeah, I wanted to do Day of Judgment, but then I thought, well, I better play it semi-safe. Where's the Evergreen Spider-Man?
Events are
Still not
tough.
out yet.
There's a lot of
And
like
honestly-
there's stories in events that I like, but in the overall event's not good. Or you know,
Oh.
are just not great. Like there's a story in Convergence I love. Like really love. But the rest of it. And that's just like every time.
I'm gonna leave the voting up for just one more minute. So everybody go and vote if you have not voted yet. And I want to thank my panelists again for joining us for this madness that takes place here. I apologize if friendships are broken.
No, this has been a great time. This has been really fun. All of you guys have been great. Like, this has been a great panel. It felt like it flowed well. Everybody's fun. Like, it was a good time.
Well, I'm glad you're having fun.
Were that you weren't going to make good picks, but then your picks generated some of the most fun discussion. Like, that's people sometimes get shy about coming on these because I think real talk, like they're like, oh, I don't know, you're all so tough on stuff. But honestly, any argument about a story that you love is a compelling argument on this show.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, I am ending the poll, so everybody had the chance to vote.
I need like
here we go.
20 seconds. 20 seconds before you reload.
Okay, 20 more seconds. 20 more seconds.
I need to fix one egregious error on my part that
Gosh,
shall be corrected.
Poop. All right.
Center.
Ah! All right. Coming in with
All right.
the highest vote is DC Dark Knight's Metal. Then Heroes in Crisis with 27%, DC 1 Million with 18%, and Underworld Unleashed at 8%.
We're going to be getting that deluxe for Heroes in Crisis soon with the price tie-ins and the unfortunate parts for that because of the stream.
Because
all right, go ahead and hit reload, Omar. We have our final panel approved, chat approved choices.
Nice. I like
All
it.
right. Here we go. Maddie, read them off. What do we got here as our Evergreen in the chat?
We've got DC Rebirth, Blackest Night, Flashpoint, Doomsday Clock, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, and 52. And with our universal pick, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Chat vote was for Superman, the Death and Return of Superman, and for Dark Knight's Metal.
Wow.
Good job, everybody.
Solid.
Solid list.
Solid. Yeah, I like this. No Nightfall is really surprised. You guys chose that.
You've got to let it go.
No, DC would look at this list and say, yes, we will print 10 million of these and 9.9 million will sell.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are you thinking Rebirth won't sell?
I didn't say Rebirth wouldn't sell.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Solid list. I just assumed Boo Metal. Oh man, the Snyder Bros are happy.
I like Sean's rants are amazing. He convinced me to become a vegan or something.
Yeah, honestly, at least 1 out of 3 things that Sean advocates for, I become like a believer. After the people will ask me
I know,
later,
I
I'm
was
like,
just
I don't know.
tell
for
me
some
more
reason,
about it.
I just feel really strongly about this now. I just can't explain why.
Yeah, that was good. That was good, man. Your Forever Evil didn't make it, but that's okay. Doomsday Clock. You turn people around. Look, man, you made 2 Snyder Bros believe in the Jeff Johns magic. That's huge, man.
I
can't
thought there
believe
was.
I voted for Doomsday Clock. Like I
can't believe I can't believe it either, honestly.
I'm having an identity crisis.
I thought there was no chance in hell of that making it. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed what I said.
Where's Tyler? I'm so sorry. Tyler, some of yours made it, right?
Yeah, 2 of mine, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, 2. That's twice more than mine did. Okay.
Yep.
But nobody's keeping count. That's okay. All right. That was a lot of fun. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. Before we wrap up, please don't forget to hit that like button and go and check out these wonderful folks wherever they can be found. So I'm going to let them sign off, starting from the top left all the way at the very top. That is the adorable OmniDog.
Thank you for having me on. This was a total blast. OmniDog's Vault on YouTube, live stream on Saturday at 8 p.m. It's Batmantha, but at 1 p.m., right after Very Fine Conditions live stream, Wonder Maddie and Jessica will be on to discuss some Superman books. So I'm really looking forward to having Maddie and Jessica on at 1 p.m. Saturday Eastern Standard Time.
And he's on Blue Sky.
Oh, and I'm Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky apparently.
That is Wonder Maddie.
Hi, you can find me here. And soon Illuminerdy will come back because it looks like everything is working so far. So let's just hope everybody fingers crossed this continues. So I'll probably reach out to people on the panel actually and see if you all want to come hang out. Yeah, I'm here. And catch me on Jessica on Saturday. I'm Wonder Maddie on Blue Sky. So you catch me there. It's easy. I post more comic stuff there than I do on Twitter. That's where all the anime stuff goes. So I'll see you online.
All right, and Sean, one of my new favorite friends. What's up, man?
So much. I appreciate everybody for being so kind. I appreciate everybody watching. You guys are amazing. If you want to see more of me, I will be live tomorrow night at 6 p.m. over on my channel, youtube.com/thecomicspals. We're going to be reviewing the books that dropped this week from all over the industry. And then Saturday, we are going to be live at 10:15 a.m. Eastern to talk about all the happenings in the comic space this week, all the diamond of it all and everything that's been going on big picture wise. So Saturday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys.
All right, and Dom of X, what's up, man?
You can of course find me on this channel. Most recently we had a huge undertaking with the Krakoa reading order, but I'm glad that the reception and from people loving the graphics, animations, Omar and I would put a lot of thought into it and mapped it out, and we're glad that a lot of you guys seem to be loving the videos. So big thank you to all of you who have watched it in chat. If you haven't watched it yet, I urge you to, if you're interested in reading Krakoa. You can find me, of course, on my YouTube channel, where I'll probably will be talking about that brand new Absolute Hush that is releasing out in October. Video coming out sometime next morning, where I talk about all things comics, on top of a small revamp that I'm doing with my content, of course, comicreleases.com, where you can get all of your information for collected editions and everything else as far as that note with our site there.
Awesome. Yeah, Dom and I worked a lot of hours on that, and I thought anytime, and I know Peter feels this, anytime you're working on a long project of like reading orders and stuff, you're just like, I know I'm going to get that one comment that's like, Krakoa sucks.
Mid.
And it's all worth it. All right. Speaking of Crisis.
Hello, everyone. I'm Crisis with a K, as we all know by now. You can find my site at crushingcrisis.com, where I have reading orders and collecting guides to the vast majority of Marvel, but also a surprising amount of DC and Indie as well. Here on YouTube, I'm also Crushing Crisis. I'll have a live show early next week. Please join me. It's a new experience. You got to see how hard this is to do all by yourself. And of course, you can talk to me on socials at Crushing Comics on Twitter or Blue Sky. Always a pleasure. Always love hearing about Evergreen picks and why everybody loves them. So I can't wait for what's next.
The stream was amazing, by the way, Crisis. Absolutely incredible. I love when you played guitar at the end.
Lars, what do you do?
What do I do? That's a good question. No, Lars Pearson, publisher and editor-in-chief of Mad Norwegian Press. And we are soon to announce another volume in our About Time series, which I've actually filed the distribution paperwork, and God knows when this list will show up on Amazon. So hopefully more details are soon to come.
All right. And Illuminerdy.
I am Illuminerdy _. It's always a pleasure to be on these evergreen streams. It's a blast just talking comic books. I don't have a whole lot of people to talk comic books with for some reason. You can find me on YouTube, where I do reviews and reading recommendations and top 5s, top 10s. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok till Sunday, until that disappears. But I do put content out on there if you want a little bit more of a short term or shorter content, but mainly on YouTube, putting out 2 to 3 videos a week.
Awesome. Well, I am the Uncanny Omar, and I'm going to sign us off. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to my wonderful panel. And yeah, these people are great. So go and check out their channel. Show them some love. I am out of here. I will be back tomorrow with some kind of video. And I know Dom's got a video dropping tomorrow too, the DC's Finest video. Something else. And then I'm back on Saturdays, live streams. Sunday's a book club on Patreon? Yes. I was told I couldn't go to IKEA on Sunday because we have a book club on. So thank you all so much. We're out of here. Have a great weekend. Or no, wait, tomorrow's your weekend.